Now, today, we are gonna see, what if Naruto was White Dragon of DXD, had closure with Ophis? Please subscribe this channel, because definitely I will try my best to provide a valuable content for you all. Also check the description to support the original author for this beautiful creation. Naruto Uzumaki, the last of his clan and current wielder of the mid-tier Longinus Divine Dividing. At a young age, Naruto had his most precious people taken from him. Both his parents Minato and Kashina Uzumaki Namikaze died giving their lives for him. Having spent 5 wonderful years with them, Naruto could not have been happier in his short time in the world, but all good things came to an end. His went down in flames. A fire consumed his home. His parents were unable to do anything but save him, unable to save themselves before the fire consumed their home. Naruto was young and details of that night were burned into his mind and he could not forget a single detail. How could he? That was the day he had lost everything that he deemed precious. On that day, Naruto found feathers of black raining from the skies. He did not know what they were, but he would later on. At the age of 5, he was later on taken away by the authorities and sent to an orphanage where he resided for an entire year. Then someone came for him, a man by the name of Dulio Gesualdo. Dulio was a young man with blonde hair, green eyes, and was dressed in priest clothes. He had been traveling around Japan for some tasty cuisines that he had not tasted and found a powerful source of magic in this area. Imagine his surprise when he found a young boy too small for his age with such a powerful source of magic residing in his body. Dulio then proceeded to adopted him. There no doubt about it, this was the son of Minato Namikaze and Kashina Uzumaki. Though Dulio knew that Minato and Kashina would not have wanted him to get involved with the supernatural world, so that was why they had plans for him in the orphanage rather than the church. Even if it was against their decisions and wishes, Dulio knew that Naruto would be later bothered by one of the other 2 fashions later on, and it was his duty to help his fallen friend's child. Minato was known as the Yellow Flash, a moniker given to him due to his amazing speeds with his technique, the Flying Thunder God. Flying Thunder God or Reuniting utilized the Uzumaki clan's amazing sealing magic, allowing him to pass through space and time, traveling to areas where he marked with his seal. Such a technique took quite a lot out of him the first time he used it, but he had over time mastered it to a degree where he could easily wipe out massive groups of enemy soldiers. Kashina was known for a similar thing. Having contracted a fox at a young age, she was able to fight alongside it. But it was not just any fox either, it was a Kyuubi. A fox with 9 tails were rare among yokai, with its power rivaling ultimate class devils. Not only did she have power of such a beast, but she also was very skilled in sealing as well. Both were known seal masters. Sealing was such a rare skill that many factions and supernatural groups feared them for their powers with simple ink and paper, and with such fear, they were marked as enemies of many supernatural groups, and if Naruto was known to the world, he would be hunted down. Naruto was unknown to the church as he spent his time traveling with Dulio. They spent a majority of his childhood traveling around the world tasting fine cuisine from all cultures. Once Naruto was old enough, Dulio decided it was time for him to learn of supernatural beings. Naruto for one did not believe him until he was shown literal proof. Dulio did just that, showing off the power of his sacred gear, Zenith Tempest. It was amusing to see Naruto so awed from the power he had displayed, but it was on that day that Dulio had learned of Naruto's sacred gear. A trip to England had ended differently than he had hoped. On their trip, a band of devils had attacked them, thinking them as enemies, and Dulio had been occupied with a few devils. One had engaged Naruto, who was not even adept in the arts of magic. In a desperate attempt to escape, Naruto had called forth the power hidden inside his body, the power of a dragon. Not just any dragon, but the White Dragon Emperor himself, Albion. Dulio had swore to Minato and Kashina that day to train Naruto to the best of his abilities, so he was ready for what the supernatural world had to offer. Naruto was a quick learner. That phrase did not do him any justice, as Naruto learned whatever he threw at him with such vigor and eagerness that Dulio had to double his training. No, Naruto stood at the age of 17 above average height and looking more and more like his father every day. Though appearances belonged to his father, Naruto still held that fiery temper from his mother. Dulio had managed to quell his fiery temper to a certain degree, but Naruto would still lose control when he felt the ones precious to him threatened. His personality was another one. Being around Dulio for a majority of his short life, he had developed a laid-back personality. Having possession of divine dividing, Dulio knew that it was a matter of time before he church found out about him. Even with all his power and influence as the most powerful exorcist, he could not keep them away from Naruto for very long. Even if he did not wish for Naruto to be caught up in it, there was no choice but to do whatever he could to help him now. Naruto had pieced everything together when Dulio had told him about the supernatural world. Those black feathers that resembled crow feathers belonged to only a single faction, the fallen angels. That had ignited a fire in his heart, the desire to find whoever had killed his parents and find answers of his own. It was better than having others tell him their very own answers. Albion, the vanishing dragon residing in his sacred gear, was intrigued about his new possessor. Being different from others, the young Uzumaki held something that some of his past possessors did not have, the potential to become one of the greatest. Having Uzumaki blood flowing in his veins and magic power that dwarfed many, Albion could not have asked for a better possessor. Once he met with his rival, he would win the battle. There was little doubt in Albion's mind that Naruto would and could become the most powerful White Dragon Emperor from past, present, and future. The meeting between host and dragon was a bit strange. Naruto had appeared in a throne room with white columns leading toward a pure white throne. Having no idea why he was here, Naruto felt compelled to take a seat upon the throne, and that was what he had done. The cold surface sent shivers up his back, but power also coursed through his entire being, filling him with overwhelming power that seemed unreal for anyone to possess. A bright blue sphere appeared before him. A shower of blue particles fell from the sphere. Naruto reached out and grabbed hold of it, and that was when he and Albion had met for the first time. The two had a strange relationship that later on evolved into a partnership between dragon and human. It was odd how powerful the duo could become once they had worked out a partnership together. Naruto was able to unlock the forbidden stage of his sacred gear at a young age. Unlocking the armor of the White Dragon Emperor, Naruto achieved Balance Breaker for the first time during his training sessions with Dulio. Such a feat was astounding for him. After all, he was 12, for crying out loud. Able to access Balance Breaker was amazing for anyone, but a 12-year-old could do it was just amazing. Albion was very pleased to see his host achieving such feats at such a young age. His host was truly powerful for his age. Albion couldn't wait until they met the Red One and finally battled it out. With a host like Naruto, they could not lose. Later on, Naruto would meet Michael when he was 15 of age. The Archangel was shocked that Dulio had kept such a secret from him. Going against Minato and Kashina's wishes did not sit well with him. Final wishes of two of his most powerful and loyal members of church he had wished were followed through, but Dulio did have a logical argument, as Naruto would be in danger if he was ignorant. It was truly complicated situation in which what Minato and Kashina had set up for Naruto would contradict with what they desired for their child. Michael would soon steal his resolve and accept Naruto into the church as an exorcist. Though he did not wish to go against Minato and Kashina's wishes for their child, he would have been in danger if he did not. Naruto, get the door. Dulio called out as he returned his attention back to his meal. Hearing a grumble from the other room, Naruto entered the dining room with a priest following him from behind. Can't you come back when I'm done with my food? Naruto had grown taller since his years with Dulio, standing above average height for his age. Naruto had kept his spiky blonde hair similar to his father's but had cut off his side bangs. His blue eyes shone with boredom as he crossed his arms and waited. Naruto's outfit consisted of an orange t-shirt with loose black pants and a jacket over his shirt. Orange being his favorite color was always present in his outfit, though at times he was forced into those annoying church clothing. I am sorry, Dulio-sama, but Mihal-sama has requested you and Naruto-san to meet him immediately. The priest responded with a bow of his head. A groan escaped Dulio's mouth as he nodded in acknowledgement and placed his chopsticks down and walked out of the house with Naruto trailed behind him. Naruto-kun, Dulio-kun, it is great to see you again. Michael greeted with the usual kind smile on his face. Looking at them, he decided it was best to tell them of the situation first. Naruto-kun, I am sending you on a mission to Kuo Town, Japan. Seeing the curious expression on his face, Michael decided to elaborate. There is a slight problem there, you see. Kokabiel from the fallen faction has decided it was necessary for more war, so it is best to send you to stop him before war actually comes. Dulio-kun, I cannot send you. If I do, it would cause more harm to the situation rather than help. 2 of our young swordsmen are there collecting the missing Excalibur pieces, and I fear they are in danger. Also, if you could, Naruto-kun, please stop Kokabiel before he spreads some classified information. I understand, Michael-sama. I shall leave immediately. Naruto replied as he got up and walked out of the church. Once he was outside, a pair of white dragon wings appeared on his back as he took off into the skies, flying towards Japan. Albion, what do you think about our assignment? This could be interesting. Albion responded as his wings shone brighter as his partner spoke to him. Naruto smiled at that as he continued towards Japan. Albion was a good partner and he could not have asked for a better dragon residing in his sacred gear. Naruto, do you sense that? Yeah. Naruto replied, his eyebrows raised as his head stayed looking in Japan's general direction and a larger smile formed on his face. Though the energy signature was weak, Naruto was certain it was Diedrich and the boosted gear. Looks like we finally found the red one, Albion? Ha 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 ha. Finally the red one has been found, partner. Albion responded in a joy-filled tone. His host is weak. Such a weak signature is nothing compared to yours, partner. The only reason we found his energy source was due to erected dome. Without it we could not have found him. Such a weak energy signature we could have easily passed by without knowing it was him. I think you got a little arrogant, partner. Naruto commented as he returned his attention to flying. Besides, being weak isn't such a bad thing. How could I not, partner? Albion questioned with an amused tone. With you as my partner we could surpass all and become the greatest white dragon emperor to ever grace the earth. Releasing a sigh, Naruto kept flying, but he could not help but smile at Albion's words of praise, though it seemed like the vanishing dragon was ignoring his other statement. Over the years, Albion and him had developed a relationship built solely on trust. Naruto had allowed Albion to control his body when it was needed and allowed him to control the flow of power he would receive from the dragon. Albion in return was always giving him power that was needed and worked with him as an equal. Dragons were prideful creatures that did not bow to anything lower than their existence, but Albion had acknowledged Naruto and thus they were equals in their partnership. It was shocking how much Albion enjoyed such a partnership. It seemed as if Naruto was a few of the humans that received his respect as well. Rias Gremory held the appearance of a beautiful young woman in her late teens with white skin, blue eyes and a buxom figure. Her most distinctive feature was her long, beautiful crimson hair that reached down to her thighs, with a single strand of hair standing up, and also her hair had loose bangs covering her forehead and side bangs framing her face. Being a Gremory, she had not been exposed to many situations in which she felt actual fear, but here she was with her peerage helpless before one of the leaders of Grigori. Her peerage consisted of many members. There was Akano, her queen, Yuto, her knight, Kaneko, her rook, and Issei, her pawn. Akano was a beautiful young woman with a voluptuous figure around the same age as Rias, with very long black hair and violet eyes. Her black hair was usually tied in a long ponytail, which reached down to her legs with 2 strands sticking out from the top and sloping backwards, with an orange ribbon keeping it in place. She had on a shrine maiden's outfit. Yuto held the appearance of handsome young man with short blonde hair, gray eyes, and a mole under his left eye. He was wearing the Kuo Academy uniform without the blazer. Kaneko held an appearance of a petite girl with white hair and hazel eyes. The front of her hair had 2 long bangs going past her shoulders and several loose bangs hanging over her forehead, while her back has a short bob cut. She too was wearing the female Kuo Academy uniform. Issei, the final and newest member of Rias's peerage, stood at average height with short brown hair and light brown eyes. He, like Kiba, wore the school uniform, but he had on the blazer. There were others fighting against Kokabiel as well. Zenobia Quarta, a young woman with chin-length blue hair with a green fringe on the right side and dark yellow eyes. She wore her church battle outfit, which consisted out black skin-tight short-sleeved unitard with pauldrons, matching her fingerless gloves and thigh-high leather boots. Dressed similarly was her partner Irina. Irina was a beautiful young woman with long chestnut hair and violet eyes. Her hair was tied back into twin tails. Their opponent was Kokabiel himself, a leader of Grigori. Kokabiel held the appearance of a young man with black hair. Unlike other fallen angels, he had pointy ears. Dressed in a black robe with accessories, it allowed his 5 pair of wings to be shown freely. Kokabiel was amused by those pitiful worms that were trying to oppose him. It was very amusing indeed. His plan was so close to success. All he had to do now was kill the pathetic worms standing before him now, and he could have another war. In the previous war, they could have won if it was not Azazel's intervention, but now he could start another one in which the fallen angels would win against both angel and devil. From here on out, I will start a war. I will take your heads as a gift. Even if it's only me, I will continue from where we left off. I'm going to show Sirzex and Michael that we, the fallen angels, are the ultimate beings. Kokabiel shouted in glee as an insane fit of laughter escaped his lips. Everyone present just looked at him in horror. Their loves were going to end here, and a war was going to break out because of the insane fallen angel. War. Finally we can have war once more. Raising his arms above his head, Kokabiel formed a massive spear of light that dwarfed his entire figure. In comparison, he was an ant. Looks of horror all formed on everyone's face as they could only stare at the massive spear pointing towards them. Death was what waited for them. It was hopeless now to fight against something so massive in size that it could easily vaporize them by touch. Before Kokabiel could even launch the spear, the dome that was erected around them keeping Kokabiel from destroying Japan was shattered and a figure shrouded in white light descended onto the ground. It can't be. Diedrich shouted in shock. What is it, Diedrich? Issei asked as he looked at his sacred gear in confusion. Is it that guy over there? Be careful around him, Issei. That is the host of my rival and he will be your rival to come. Diedrich answered. It seems that the White One's host is stronger than what I imagined him to be. Who the hell are you? Kokabiel shouted his question at Naruto, who had stowed away his sacred gear, and the light that once surrounded him died down and he stood there in his regular attire. I am Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto responded as he looked at Kokabiel with a calculative look on his face. Uzumaki, isn't that the name of that family I had killed? Kokabiel asked in a mocking tone. A sneer was on his face as a laugh escaped his lips. That look on their faces when they tried to escape with their baby. Ha ha ha. Too bad Michael didn't declare war when that happened, but it wasn't a waste of time. I got to see those pathetic humans desperately try to save themselves. Ha ha ha. Those feathers, Naruto murmured as his eyes widened in shock before they shifted into ones of rage. His pupils shrunk as his eyes took on a fierce look, similar to one of a dragon's. A pair of white dragon wings shot from his back and a death glare was sent at Kokabiel. Those hideous feathers were yours. Ha ha ha. You finally figured it out. Kokabiel gave another fit of maniacal laughter. Finally I can kill you and complete my list of Uzumakis. I'll make you pay. Naruto shouted in rage as his wings shone with power and he flew into the air. Kokabiel didn't have a chance to throw his spear as a fist connected with his jaw and sent him flying away. Divide. Draining power from his spear, Naruto felt his power rise to new levels as he directed his gaze at Kokabiel, who had recovered from his punch and was glaring at Naruto with hate-filled eyes. How dare you hit you? You filthy human. Kokabiel shouted in rage as he flew towards Naruto and a sword made of light appeared in his hands. Naruto didn't even bat an eyelash as he encased his arm in wind magic and grabbed hold of Kokabiel's blade. I am going to clip your filthy wings, you crow. Naruto yelled as he added more force to his grip on the light sword and shattered it into tiny particles of light before sending a punch at Kokabiel's stomach. Not relenting, Naruto formed a Rasengan in his other hand and slammed it on Kokabiel's back. The result of his actions sent Kokabiel plummeting down towards the ground. Before Kokabiel could reach the ground, Naruto rushed down towards him, but before he could reach him, Kokabiel recovered enough to send a barrage of light spears towards him. Weaving through the spears, Naruto was forced back as more and more shot towards him. Kokabiel proceeded to create a larger and more destructive spear as he shot it towards Naruto, who had finished dodging the spears and turned to face another one flying towards him. Raising his hand, Naruto split the beam in half as he drained the energy from the attack and filled up his barely used reserves. His previous uses of magic barely used any of his magical power, thus excess magic filled his system. Albion, expel the extra magic. You got it, partner. Albion responded as the divine dividing shone brighter and blue magic particles were released from his wings and they fluttered in the air around Naruto. Oh ho, it seems like you found the one with those filthy wings, partner. Why don't we show them the power of supremacy? Let us them, Albion. Naruto said as he crossed his arms and he was consumed by a bright white light. Vanishing dragon balance breaker. Partner, finish this crow and show him what true power is. Albion said with a glee-filled tone as Naruto nodded his head in acknowledgement and began the change into his armor. Once the light died down, Naruto had white dragon armor formed around him with blue jewels decorating it. In this form, it boosted his speed, power, durability, and allowed him to use his power of divide. Without the 10-second limit, though temporarily, it was still a very useful ability that it granted him. Looking at Kokabiel through his helmet, Naruto channeled all the rage and frustration that he had felt towards his family's demise and charged forward. His goal was Kokabiel's head. Kokabiel was not the only one shocked by Naruto's new form. Issei and the others were as well. To see a completed balance breaker was shocking enough as it was the forbidden stage that all sacred gears possessed, but to seeing it used was not as shocking, but the power that was emitted during the transformation was what brought out their shock. Issei was most shocked out of them all. His destined rival was able to achieve something that he could not even muster at his condition now. What else was Naruto Uzumaki capable of? Prepare yourself, Kokabiel. Naruto responded as he rushed forward, but Kokabiel had already planned a wave attack as another barrage of light spears flew towards him. Vanishing from the position he was once situated, Naruto appeared before Kokabiel with a raised fist and slammed it against his face. Following up his former attack, Naruto punched Kokabiel once more with his other fist. Kokabiel retaliated with a punch of his own, but Naruto caught it before it could reach his face and began crushing his hand. Screaming in pain, Kokabiel formed a light sword in his free hand and sent it towards Naruto, who caught it with his other hand. Adding pressure to both hands, Naruto heard the familiar sounds of bones being crushed as Kokabiel's screams got louder and his blade shattered into tiny shards of light-based magic. Clenching his fist, Naruto punched Kokabiel back once more. This time Kokabiel was prepared for this as he drew a blade and went to stab him. Releasing his hold of Kokabiel, Naruto leaned back and allowed the blade to come forward. Luckily enough, he was able to dodge fast enough for the blade to reach its limited range and stop a little ways before reaching him. But that did not stop Kokabiel as a kick was planted against his chest and Naruto was pushed backwards for a good distance before he recovered and charged at Kokabiel. Like his previous attempts to charge him head first, he was met with another barrage of light spears. This time Naruto did not bother to dodge them as he took the attacks head on, but they did not even touch him as multiple magic circles appeared where the light spears were supposed to hit. Using the magic he was collecting from the light spears, Naruto compressed the collected magic into a wave of lightning that shot out from his body and moved towards Kokabiel, who was busy preparing another massive spear of light. This time he succeeded in its creation and use as Kokabiel threw it straight at Naruto, who raised his hand, divide. The familiar sensation of his magic coursing through his entire body was felt once again as Naruto raised his hand and a basketball-sized sphere of blue magic formed in his palm, and soon wind began swirling around it and the sphere turned into a large Fuma shuriken with the sphere in the middle. This was his Rasen shuriken. A buzzing sound was emitting from his technique. Throwing the deadly technique forward, it flew straight for Kokabiel. Kokabiel merely leaned to the right, avoiding Naruto's Rasen Shuriken, but he did not expect it to expand, and a massive dome of wind blades consumed him entirely. The only two ways for Naruto to use his Rasen Shuriken was through Senjutsu and when he donned his scale mail. Having some sort of protection against the blades of wind that formed around the Rasengan allowed him to use that technique to its fullest. If he had used it without Senjutsu or his scale mail, his hand would have been easily gone from his body, as the wind blades were too close and could easily damage him. Such an attack was powerful. It damaged people caught in its radius was at a cellular level, easily damaging nerves and possibly the ones caught in its range's ability to use magic. Once Kokabiel was seen again, his dome of wind blades had vanished, leaving behind a heavily damaged Kokabiel. Though Kokabiel could barely keep himself in the air, he was not willing to let the blonde win. He needed this war to prove his dominance. Panting heavily, Kokabiel could not even retaliate when Naruto appeared behind him and grabbed hold of his wings. Looking at Naruto in shock and fear, Kokabiel did not have time to do anything, as both his wings were ripped from his back and his feathers scattered into the wind. Kokabiel screamed in pain as he was dropped from the sky and plummeted towards the earth. Without his wings, falling from such a height would ensure death, especially being damaged by Naruto like that. Kokabiel was caught just before he touched the ground, and Naruto simply shouldered Kokabiel's heavily damaged body and prepared to fly off. "Are you going to ignore me, White One?" Diedrich asked from Issei's boosted Heia. Naruto turned to face him, and Albion decided to respond, "Of course not, Red One, but it is not time for our battle yet. Your host is too weak at the moment, and I don't think my host would like to fight someone so weak." No other words were exchanged as Naruto took off into the air with Kokabiel in hand, leaving behind a group of shocked and confused devils. "That technique of yours sure packs and punch," Dulio commented as he whistled in awe as he saw the battered Kokabiel. "Those little wind blades are quite nasty, aren't they?" It was the perfect place to test the Rasen Shuriken, Naruto replied as he released a sigh of relief, having made it back to church with Kokabiel. Naruto was now relaxing at home with Dulio there snacking as usual, "And I did not expect it to do so much damage. Now that it's completed, I have another attack added to my arsenal." "Don't you think that's a bit of an overkill?" Dulio asked as he munched on a meat bun. "Besides, your divine dividing is already dangerous enough. What is the point of making another technique that you would hardly use?" "Dulio Ni-san, you were the one to teach me that our sacred gears are tools and not to rely on them too much." Naruto responded with a wave of his hand, taking a drink of the juice Dulio had offered him earlier. Dulio was silent for some time before asking in a serious tone, "Did you do that to Kokabiel because of what he did to your parents?" "How did you?" "That's not important at the moment, Naruto. Did you or did you not?" "No, but I do admit I nearly lost control of myself," Naruto finally replied as he released another sigh. "If I really did want to make Kokabiel suffer, I would have unleashed Juggernaut Drive. The Rasen Shuriken was merely for a test of its true power. To make him suffer for what he did, I would have used the true power of Albion, the true power of the White Dragon Emperor." Chapter end. Hope you guys liked the short chapter, so I will use this to explain some things. First off, I made Kokabiel a lot stronger than his part in manga and anime, since I thought he was way too weak. I mean, come on, he hardly fought against Valley. And he is one of the leaders of Grigori, so he should have put up a fight at least instead of being punched around like that. Come on. So a super power boost for Kokabiel so he won't be a weakling. Even though he lost to Naruto, it was more of a fight than utter massacre. Second, some things of importance to speak about. I altered a bit of the Rasen Shuriken so Naruto could use it in his scale mail, but he won't be using it much since he will be using the powers of Albion and the divine dividing in his scale mail. As I mentioned in the story, it was a test to see if it would succeed, and it did. Not many things are going to be said about this, but note that Naruto will not rely solely on his sacred gear, so he will be using his regular attacks like the Rasengan and other such variants to attack in his base form. Oh, and also important, these chapters are not edited nor revised, so they are completely raw, and such things are only the rough draft. In other words, for every chapter we write, we will go back to edit the previous chapter, It is a system that me and my brother had worked out so we could write separately and fix our precious mistakes as well. But know that the fight wasn't the best, so I will be coming back to change this soon. Anyways, I wanted to tell you thanks for reading this. Anyways, leave some reviews and tell me what you think about this story so far. It would mean so much if you did. Chapter 2, White Dragon of Heaven. Yo guys, my brother did his chapter, now it's my turn. Anyways, let's recap the last chapter, as it is shown that Naruto had a battle against Kokabiel and beat him, successfully capturing him. If you guys read the chapter, you would have seen that my brother did not add Asia when describing Rias's peerage. She is not part of the peerage, since I will be describing why she isn't. She will play a role in the story but not as part of Rias's peerage. Okay, now here are some things you will find often in the author's notes. There will always be a character profile of Naruto there, so we can add new things that appear in the chapter, and some facts before the start of the chapter that will explain some things that are not as well known. Toa Gaim Zxa. The truth is, my brother and I like Divine Dividing's Balance Breaker and the White Dragon armor better as well. Not only that, but I like the abilities that it provides as well, better than the boosted gears. Alex 2909. Well, I am glad that you liked how my brother and I are portraying him. Ryan O'Neill 2256. I personally like a single pairing, but my brother likes multiple ones, so it is going to be based on what others want. The idea of a pairing will be dependent on what readers decide, so there will be a poll up soon enough. I would check it out after this chapter is posted. Lord Peen. Sorry bro, I don't understand. Legendary Flashy. Oh, there will be some fights in the future, and thanks. Duckmin 34. It depends on the poll results. Neo Drive. I don't think I can write a mass harem fic. A jammer. We decided that Valley will no longer be in this story. Phantasm Reaper King. That is what we are planning. You see, one of your ideas, we had something similar to it, since it is the opposite of the boosted gear. More powers and forms of this armor will be made, as they are used to counter Issei's, which I consider annoying how much power-ups he gets. Maelstrom of Swirling Tides. I hope my previous note helped, but if it did not, then she will not be in Rias's peerage, possibly a sister, I do not know yet. But that seems like the most likely situation in which we will place her in. Dunamaster. Yes, I admit Kokabiel is weak and all that, but my brother and I honestly believe that he could have put up a better fight than that. I mean, come on, he was just so pathetic, not even worth mentioning as a threat. Remix. There will be some combination, but that is all that I will say, and thanks for the support. Vexicus 905. Maybe, it will depend on the readers, as my brother and I tend to choose from the winners of the polls. Spark 681. Mito and Ashina are both going to be relevant in the story, but they are truly dead. ARSLOTHES. The concept was an interesting one, so that was why we went with it, and vote for who you want. Fire God Vargas. I haven't seen any for a while, or any at all, so hope this one is good to inspire future ones. Now that I answered some reviews, here are some things you might need to know about this chapter. Name. The Four Pillars of Heaven. First Pillar, General. Vasco Strada. Second Pillar, General. Ewald Cristaldi. Third Pillar, General. Dulio Gesualdo. Fourth Pillar, General. Naruto Uzumaki. Structure. The organization is made up of 4 divisions and led by their respective generals. Each branch consists mainly of exorcists and a few angels of high rank. In charge of different parts of Heaven's military, all of them play a vital role in Heaven's success. First Pillar. The First Pillar is in charge of Heaven's defense. Having some of the most skilled exorcists and angels in its ranks, its sole duty is to defend Heaven against all threats. Commanded by Vasco Strada, the division has the most skilled tactical mind provided in the entire faction. Second Pillar. The Second Pillar is in charge of Heaven's intelligence. Having some of the most intelligent exorcists and angels in its ranks, the division provides all of Heaven's intelligence of outer threats and information about the other factions, making it a vital part of the 4 pillars. Commanded by Ewald Cristaldi, the enemy is focused on scouting and information gathering. Third Pillar. The third pillar is in charge of heaven's offensive strikes. Having forces made up of powerful angels and exorcists, its sole focus is offense against enemy armies. Commanded by Giulio Gesualdo, the division has not been active since its creation 20 years ago. Fourth pillar. The fourth pillar is in charge of Heaven's Special Task Force, having forces made for special assignments that range from assassination to foreign peace talks, commanded by Naruto Uzumaki, who had taken over his fallen father's position. Now on to the next chapter. Hope you like it. Chapter 2. Unexpected Events. The boosted gear and the divine dividing were complete opposites, by power and dragon alike. The boosted gear multiplied the user's power and gave it away. The divine dividing split the enemy's power and gave it to the user. Their dragon spirits residing in each sacred gear were no exception either, Diedrich the Welsh dragon and Albion the vanishing dragon. Both dragon emperors in their own right, with opposite sets of abilities that fought for dominance over the other. It seemed what they said about opposites was true. They did attract, but not in the way people thought. For centuries both dragons fought. Through their hosts they continued their battle, supremacy versus domination, an endless battle that stretched since the dawn of time itself. Partner, such a stage is impossible to maintain without proper control of the energy flow that is sent into your body, Albion said as he reprimed his partner for his stubbornness. Adding another source of energy into your system while in scale male could easily kill you. If you were a normal human like that Hyodo, then your body would have burned out from all that magical power already. I know, Albion, but if I can get it to work, then our power could increase by dramatic levels. Naruto responded as he panted softly. His body was tired from his constant training sessions. Though tired and his body hurt, Naruto pushed on and willed himself to continue. Besides, we trained harder than this before and my body has been in worse condition. Nothing one night's sleep can't fix. That stubbornness is going to be the end of you, Naruto. Albion replied with a sigh. Then again, this power will help us beat Diedrich all that faster, so let's do this thing, partner. What's a damaged body compared to beating Diedrich in our final battle? I am glad you have your priorities straight, Albion, Naruto said in a dry tone. His face matched his tone quite well. Naruto released a sigh and began channeling his magic around him once more. Determination had not wavered and Naruto prepared once more. This time we won't fail. Well, we failed, Naruto said in a cheerful tone as his wounds suffered from his previous training session were being bandaged by Giulio. Though his wounds were so severe that they seemed unlikely to be caused from a mere training session, Naruto had been through worse, and all it took was a few days of rest and his body would have healed and then his training could continue. You know, for some combat genius you seem to get hurt more than others during training. Giulio spoke up suddenly. Seeing the annoyed expression that Naruto sent him, Giulio decided to continue. Michael-sama said to meet him in the church when your training session was over. Hi, Naruto replied as he sat up from his seated position on the couch and winced slightly as pain erupted from his bandaged wounds. Do you know why Michael-sama wanted to see me for? Giulio shook his head in response as Naruto nodded in acceptance and walked out of their home without another word, whistling a cheerful tune. Naruto made his way into the church after a short walk from where he and Giulio resided. Once he entered the church, Naruto spotted Michael standing there with his usual smile plastered on the Archangel's face. Naruto-kun, it is great to see you again, Michael said with his usual smile beaming towards Naruto. I am glad you had taken care of Kokabiel before you could have started a war between the three factions. You did well. Thank you, Michael-sama, Naruto replied with a smile of his own. Though he wished he had beaten Kokabiel faster, it was no issue as he had done what had been ordered of him. But I fear Kokabiel was able to speak of our Lord's fate before you could reach Kuo on time, Michael said as his smile dropped a little before he turned to face Naruto, who seemed to have been shocked slightly by the news he had just delivered. Do not worry, Naruto-kun, it was not your fault. We were a good distance away from Japan and you could not reach there in time. Naruto accepted the answer as he gave Michael his attention once more. Michael, seeing that, took it as a sign to continue. But that is not the reason I have brought you here. The reason I have brought you here has to do with your encounter with the Red Dragon Emperor. I have feared this time would come when you would meet him. Now that you have, your final battle against the Red Dragon Emperor has been confirmed. This is my question to you, Naruto-kun. Do you wish to fight the Red Dragon Emperor? Thinking about the question for a second, Naruto truly had to ask himself if he really did desire to fight the Red Dragon Emperor. This battle between dragons was fought many times before yet came to no decisive conclusion. All Naruto wanted to do was get stronger. With strength he could protect the ones precious to him, so fighting a dragon equal to his very own partner would likely help in his path, so his answer was yes. Opening his mouth, Naruto spoke in a confident tone. Michael-sama, the answer to your question is yes. Do explain, Naruto-kun. Michael replied with a curious tone. To protect my precious people I will get stronger. Naruto said, his tone still held that confidence from before. And to get stronger I will defeat the Welsh dragon. I feared you would say that. Michael sighed, but his smile seemed to brighten. His hands shone with a golden light and soon a blade manifested before him. It was beautiful golden blade with a guard. Resembling a dragon's claw, grabbing hold of the blade, Michael laid it out before him and offered it to Naruto. This is Ascalon, a holy sword wielded by Saint Peter himself. A blade known for its dragon-slaying capabilities. Though we do not wish for you to fight against the Red Dragon Emperor, I cannot stop you either. This predestined battle shall happen eventually, and since I cannot stop you, so I shall help you instead. Naruto was beyond shocked. His eyes were the size of dinner plates. How could he not be shocked? The church was granting him one of the most prized and well-guarded weapons in their arsenal. Michael-sama, thank you. Taking hold of Ascalon, Naruto began testing the blade's balance in his hand. Finding it perfect, he bowed his head in gratitude, and Naruto couldn't help but smile. Michael watched this scene play out and his smile widened. Though it was true heaven did not wish for further conflict, but for Naruto he would be an exception. It was true that they had truly desired to help Naruto against the Red Dragon Emperor, but Ascalon needed to be wielded, and seeing that one of their own holy sword users knew the truth about their lord's fate, they needed to boost their strength to maintain a balance between factions. 1. Albion, what can we do about the blade? Naruto asked as now sat in the training grounds with Ascalon in his hands. Such a powerful weapon, now we have a way to slay other dragons. Albion commented as he thought about his partner's question. Naruto waited patiently for his dragon to answer his question. Though we are able to add it into the Divine Dividing, I do not think it would be any help to have the blade stuck inside the Divine Dividing. Naruto, I recommend training with that holy sword until we strengthen your body to handle the extra strain the blade will add when combining its dragon-slaying capabilities into our attacks. 2. Naruto nodded as Ascalon vanished from his hands in a shower of white light. Leaning against a tree, Naruto spoke. Albion, how much extra power can I contain without it straining my body? Currently, your body is above a normal human's and your magic reserves are massive, dwarfing even ultimate-class devils. I would have to say 10 times your normal amount, taking in consideration your Uzumaki body, Albion replied. With Ascalon in our arsenal, we can double our energy intake and use the blade as a medium for excess magic power. That would increase our performance and power output in battle by a dramatic degree, but I would need help training with Ascalon. Naruto mused. Though he was not a regular genius, he was a genius in combat. Having the mental fortitude to think of plans on the spot, though he did not seem to apply into academics. Besides, Ascalon is a holy sword. The power we can store in that blade would be very useful in the future. How come you never used those words before? Albion questioned, knowing that it would annoy Naruto. Then again, you know what humans say, there's a first time for everything. You picking a fight, you old bag of scales? Naruto responded instantly, his eyebrows twitched in annoyance. What are you going to do about it, you blonde idiot? Albion questioned, mirth clearly audible in his voice. I can't believe that Michael was dumb enough to appoint you the general of the fourth pillar. I'm gonna use Ascalon on you, you old bag of scales. Naruto said, his annoyance seemed to have risen to new levels. How are you gonna reach me? I'm just a spirit. Albion said in a mocking tone, first time glad of his lack of a physical body. An old bag of scales. You need more insults. You're impossible. Naruto shouted, annoyed with this situation entirely. He couldn't just walk away. Albion was literally in him, so he could do nothing to avoid the annoying dragon. Twilight healing. A rare sacred gear with only a few wielders of such a useful tool, having the ability to heal all devils, angels, humans, and fallen angels alike. It was very sought after. Having been manifesting in a young girl by the name of Asia Argento, who was seen as a blessed maiden when she had healed a sickened man. Though her good deeds and kind heart she attract both good and bad attention, from villagers she was seen as a blessed maiden, and to a certain devil, she was seen as another maiden to break. An attempt to turn Asia into a heretic, Astaroth, had failed when one Naruto Uzumaki came into play. Having his plan foiled by the blonde exorcist, he had managed to escape with a large scar on his chest dealt by Naruto, who was investigating a devil in the area. Having been saved from being seen as a heretic, she had been moved into another area due to the fear of the devil who tried to turn her. Being sent to Vatican, though Asia did not know why she was sent to such an important place, but she had a suspicion that it related to Naruto. Spending a good few years there, she was once more sent off to another location, this time Japan. Though she did not know why, Asia was happy to continue spreading the teachings of the Lord. Now here she was, being led towards the church by a nice young man that had helped her earlier. Issei Hyodo was his name. Thank you, Hyodo-san. Asia thanked him with a bow. No problem, Asia-chan. Issei responded nervously as his eyes were glued on the foreign beauty standing before him. It was a dream come true. A blonde beauty was not something he would have expected to bump into during his time walking through the park, but she was standing right in front of him. The god of perverts was truly looking out for him. If you are not too busy, come visit me anytime, Hyodo-san, Asia said as she gave him an innocent smile. Asia thought about her time here, and then her eyes widened when she remembered what the priest had ordered. Anyo, Hyodo-san, do you by any chance go to Kuo Academy? Yes. Issei said a little too loudly as he looked at her with a face filled with joy. His perverted side was having a field day. Not only was he in a peerage with 3 beauties, and now a foreign beauty was attending his school. Anyo, if it isn't any trouble, can I walk with you tomorrow? Asia asked a bit shyly. Looking up, she noticed an odd look on Issei's face, but she decided to ignore it. Of course, Asia-chan, Issei replied with his joy-filled tone still present. The next morning Naruto was out of his casual clothing, and now his outfit consisted of a white shirt with a black and orange tie and black pants with black boots. Over his white shirt was a long black coat that reached down to his shins with golden fringes on the sides of his coat. His outfit seemed more militaristic compared to what he was used to, but it was either this or his priest robes, which was not something Naruto would wear if he had a choice. Having been given orders by Michael to accompany him and Lady Gabriel to the meeting between factions, Naruto had to be dressed in his formal robes that are his general's attire. It was obvious what he chose. And it was the only formal outfit that he could sneak orange into. Being appointed as the 4th pillar general, Naruto took up that position after his father. All pillars had their own uniforms and a piece of clothing that stood out among the others, but his father had changed the entire outfit entirely. Normally, they were regular priest robes with a golden badge that held the Roman numeral IV etched on it. Minato was never one for robes. The Namikaze had a thing for long coats, and that was what he had changed the outfit to. Naruto, taking over, did not wish to change his father's choice of outfit and kept with it. Though he was not one to be formal, it was something he would tolerate to keep his father's memories in place. Gabriel-sama, it is time to go, Naruto said, catching the Archangel's attention. Gabriel nodded in response as she flashed him a gentle smile and looped her arms around his, and the duo walked out of the building. Guards flanked both of their sides, which led to a car waiting to take them to Kuo Academy, the meeting place of the 3 factions. Gabriel was one of the 4 seraphs of heaven. She was an extremely beautiful woman with curly blonde hair and a voluptuous figure. Arriving early, Naruto was still seated in the car as they waited for a little while, allowing Gabriel to decide on their next course of action. Spotting Asia walking with the Gremory group, Naruto decided it was best to make himself known. Naruto turned to Gabriel and spoke in a respectful tone. Gabriel-sama, may I go and speak to Asia-chan? Of course, Naruto-kun. Gabriel answered, as another smile graced her beautiful features. Giving her a nod in thanks, the door to his right was opened by one of his officers and he stepped out of the car and began making his way towards the front of Kuo Academy. Two of his officers followed him a few steps behind and readied themselves if the group of devils tried anything towards their pillar general. His appearance had surprised the entire peerage and brought fear and dread into their hearts. The only one who seemed to have completely different emotions was Asia, as a bright smile formed on her face. His two officers following him were known as Graffel, 3, and Hesidoth, 4. Both of them were dressed in the typical fourth pillar attire and both had black hair. Graffel kept his hair short and spiked while Hesidoth allowed his hair to grow messy. Both of them were his most trusted officers and their loyalty towards him were undeniable, as he knew they would willingly die for him in a heartbeat. That's him, partner, the White Dragon Emperor. Diedrich forced himself to be heard as Issei's right arm shifted into the boosted gear. Bringing nervousness to the group, Rias decided it was best to proceed with words. What are you doing here, White Dragon Emperor? Rias asked as her eyes narrowed, and she prepared for the worst. Though she highly doubted that they could put up much of a fight against someone who had defeated Kokabiel as if he was nothing, her entire peerage was tensed and ready to spring into action if the situation deemed necessary. Are you here for Issei-kun? I am not here for the Red One. Naruto responded as he focused his attention of Asia and a smile graced his features. Asia's smile grew larger as she caught sight of Naruto's smile. I am here for Asia. Chan. The entire peerage turned to face the new addition in their group. Asia blushed slightly from the attention she was receiving and looked down on the group, avoiding all gazes placed upon her. Issei seemed to have reacted to that. Pointing a finger at Naruto, he spoke in an angry tone. What do you want Asia-chan for? Do not speak to Naruto-sama that way, you disgusting devil. One of his guards shouted as he glared at Issei, who seemed to have slightly cowered under the glare sent his way. Then his eyes set on Zenobia, who was turning away from the group with a shamed look on her face. He spoke in utter rage. And you traitor! How dare you show your face from what you have done? How dare you insult a member of my family? Rias glared at the guard who had spoken before. Even with a glare sent his way, he did not seem to falter and he continued to glare at both Issei and Zenobia. That is enough, Graffel. Naruto said, stopping the situation before it got out of hand. Graffel hesitated for a bit before mumbling a sorry towards Naruto and remained silent, though that did not stop his glares he was sending at Issei or Zenobia. Rias-san, I must apologize for my guard's outburst. Please do not take this as an offense, but Graffel merely has a hatred for devils and traitors of the church. Zenobia had tried hiding behind Kiba when she spotted Naruto, but she could not do it fast enough as she was spotted right away by the guards flanking Naruto. Facing someone like Naruto, who was a pillar general after her defection from the church, was emotionally taxing. Not only that, but he was one of the few that she had looked up to during her time training. Hearing news of the young general's accomplishment, she could not help but admire him for his power and success in battle. And now facing her hero after she had been turned into a devil mixed guilt and shame into her already confused set of emotions. Where are my manners? It seems we have not yet formally introduced ourselves, Naruto said as he held a thinking pose before smiling at the group and spoke once more. Well, I'm Naruto Uzumaki, and my guards here are Graffel and Hesidoth. I am Rias Gremory, and these behind me are my peerage members. Rias responded as she placed emphasis on her last name, Gremory. Though she knew Asia was not a member of her peerage, she decided to ignore it. Naruto Uzumaki did not need to know even if he seemed familiar with her. Graffel snorted at that. He found it amusing that the devil was trying to stand on even grounds with his general. Turning to Naruto, who seemed bored of this situation already, Graffel saw the slight nod Naruto gave him. Graffel turned to the group once more and spoke in a glee-filled tone. HMPH, we don't have time for you devils, we must go. Naruto turned around and began walking away, but he stopped himself and turned to face Asia once more and smiled at her for the last time. It was nice seeing you again, Asia-chan. Hours had passed as Naruto spent the rest of his time at Kuo with Gabriel looking around the town. Nothing seemed to have happened as he accompanied her into shops and gave her his opinion on matters of clothing. Now it was officially time for the meeting between factions. Escorting Gabriel towards the designated meeting room, Gabriel had once more looped her arms around his. Once they had reached the wooden double doors, Grapple and Hesidoth both pushed the doors open for the two to enter. Inside the room, there was a massive circular table there with chairs filled with leaders from all three factions. Seated on the Fallen Angel's side was a tall man in his late 20s with an average build, black hair, golden bangs and a black goatee. On the Devil's side sat two figures. There was a handsome man with an appearance of his early 20s with long crimson hair and blue eyes, very similar to Rias from before. Naruto assumed they were both Gremories. Next to that man was a beautiful girl with a childish body and long black hair tied back into twin tails with blue eyes. Seeing Gabriel, Michael smiled at her, and the woman with the childish body had her eyes wide open and she seemed lost for words. Issei on the other hand did not have any trouble ogling the beautiful blonde that had just entered the room. Naruto escorted her to her seat and pulled it back for her. Seating herself, Gabriel flashed Naruto a smile and he nodded in response before walking a few paces backwards and stood behind Michael and Gabriel with Grapple and Hesidoth flanking him. Well, it looks like our meeting can begin. The man with the golden bangs spoke up as he still looked bored. Azazel, how do you explain yourself for what one of your subordinates had done? Michael asked as he turned his attention onto the newly named Azazel. Everyone else followed his example and looked at him waiting for a response. Kokabiel acted on his own. I have nothing to say. Azazel responded with an impassive wave of his hand. The others accepted the answer reluctantly and once more silence descended upon the room, none knowing what to say, so Azazel decided to speak once more. Well, let's get on with it. We were here to sign a peace treaty, right? Shock decorated everyone's faces but Naruto's and his officers. They had managed to keep their composure, but they too were shocked by the news. Michael nodded his head and spoke, yes, that was the purpose for this meeting between factions. We are on low numbers and if we continue we could likely wipe each other out. What do you say, Sears Dono? I agree, Michael Dono. The redhead replied before turning to Rias and speaking once again. I would like Rias Gremory to recite the events that had happened. Hi, Lucifer-sama. Rias said she knew when it was times to be respectful and when not to be, and at times like this it was definitely one of those situations where he had to be. Kokabiel attacked with two followers. Sona Citri and her peerage had decided to erect a barrier around Kuo, preventing Kokabiel from escaping and destroying Japan. My peerage and I battled against him, but we were unable to do little to no harm to him whatsoever. That was when Naruto-san showed up. He had single-handedly stopped Kokabiel himself and took him away. It seems Kokabiel was acting on his own. Gabriel muttered before she nodded her head and accepted that Michael was one to do so as well. They were not the only ones, as the devils all nodded their head in acceptance as well. But before we go ahead and sign our peace treaty, I want to ask Red Dragon Emperor, what do you think about this? Azazel asked as he directed his question towards Issei, who seemed nervous about the attention he was receiving, but he thought about it nonetheless. Issei continued to ponder and Azazel decided to speak. If we have peace, then the number one priority would be repopulating, so you would have to spend most of your days with your bucko in bed making the next generation. Yes. Yes. Peace. I want to make babies with bucko. Issei shouted in glee as a perverted grin plastered itself onto his face and he nodded his head enthusiastically. His perverted mind was going wild as images of his time with Rias aimed into light. That is very good, Red Dragon Emperor. Michael said as he caught everyone's attention once more, and he decided it was time to officially introduce Naruto into the world. Though we have one Dragon Emperor's opinion, I wish for the other. Naruto-kun, would you please introduce yourself? Hi. Naruto responded with a nod as his posture straightened and he adopted a militaristic look on his face. I am Naruto Uzumaki, 4th Pillar General of the 4 Pillars of Heaven. I am also the White Dragon Emperor, and the Red One's destined rival. That brought some shock into everyone's eyes as they looked at the White Dragon Emperor. Rias and her peerage openly showed their shock as their eyes widened into dramatic proportions. We insulted a Pillar General. Rias thought in fear as she stole a glance at Naruto, who did not break his posture whatsoever and held it like that. Now, Naruto-kun, how do you feel about peace? Michael asked. I believe it would be a great thing, Michael-sama. Naruto responded. I do wish to get stronger, but there are always different ways to get stronger without hostilities between factions. Then it is agreed upon. Sirzex said as the leaders prepared to proceed with the peace talks, but a sudden force stopped everyone's actions and froze everything in place. Naruto and a few others were no affected, including the leaders as well. Naruto looked around and decided to look out the window and saw people in robes appeared out of the massive magic circle in the sky. Narrowing his eyes, Naruto watched on as they blasted beams of magic towards their guards, and they all disappeared once they made contact with the beams of magic shot their way. Magicians. Michael murmured as he and the others had worked to put up a shield. They must be using something to stop the time. Gasper. Rias shouted in realization as she continued to hold onto Issei, who had his boosted gear out. We can send 2 people into their lines to retrieve Gasper and to restore the flow of time, Sirzex said as he caught everyone's attention. With my power I can send 2 people there while we focus on the shield. I'll go. Rias volunteered automatically. Gasper is a member of my family, I'll go to retrieve him. I'll go with Bucko. Issei said next as he raised his hand. Sirzex nodded and began forming a magic circle. Naruto was still glaring out the window and decided he needed to provide some assistance. Graffle, patch me through to everyone in the pillar present here, Naruto said as Graffle nodded his head and used his telepathy, 5, and connected his mind to his subordinates. 4th Pillar Division, I am taking command of this situation. Defend Kuo Academy from all external forces and eliminate all that are attacking, no mercy. Graffle, Hesidoth, come with me. We are holding off the enemies until they succeed, Naruto said as a pair of white dragon wings appeared behind his back and the window keeping them from the outside shattered into tiny pieces of glass and Naruto shot out of the building. Grauhul and Hesidoth both followed as they jumped out of the building in pursuit of their general. We must hurry, while Naruto-kun is buying us time. Gabriel spoke in haste as everyone nodded in agreement. The battle had just begun and they were outnumbered severely, and it seemed as if the flow of mages had no end. They kept appearing from the magic circle situated in the sky, showing no signs of end. Outnumbered and seemingly overpowered by the sheer number of enemies, Naruto and his division were up for one hell of a ride. Chapter End 1. Michael knew of Xenovia's change of sides, so he decided to give Naruto Ascalon to strengthen their forces to keep the balance between factions. 2. Due to Naruto's human body at the moment, he is unable to add the properties of Ascalon into his attacks yet, so he needs to train to strengthen himself to combine the dragon-slaying capabilities of Ascalon into his attacks while in scale male. 3. Graffle is from the manga, anime Beelzebub. So if you want a better image of him, Google him and imagine him without his fin-like ears. Loyal to the church and Naruto, only he has a large hate for devils and traitors. 4. Hesidoth is from the manga, anime Beelzebub as well. Again, look him up for a better image. In my story he is loyal to Naruto more so than the church and will be explained later on. 5. Telepathy magic is one of the extra magics that Graffle had learned. It allows him to read the opponent's minds and communicate with others by connecting their minds. I hope you enjoyed this chapter, and my brother will be posting the next chapter. In this chapter I had Xenovia defect, but I decided to keep Irina like the manga, anime. Since I didn't give Rias Asia, I allowed her to keep Xenovia. Anyways, Kokabiel spoke of the Lord's death before Naruto could arrive, and the 4 Pillars of Heaven is based on Beelzebub's Behemoth's 34 Pillars division. I will also be adding more characters from the 34 divisions as part of Naruto's own division. It's kinda funny how they are all demons from another manga, anime working for an angel one. Anyways, leave a review and thanks for reading. Chapter 3 White Dragon of Heaven. Hey, how's it going guys? I hope you liked the chapter my brother wrote. We are going more in depth in the story this time, but also there is a battle which I get to write. Anyways, we set up a poll for readers to decide on what pairing it should be, a single or a harem. It is completely up to you. Moving on, let us recap the last chapter. Last chapter, Naruto had formally introduced himself as the general of the fourth pillar, and the battle began with Naruto taking command of his troops and moved to fight against the mages. Now on to some things that I must make clear. Naruto is not his usual happy-go-lucky because he was raised by someone like Dulio who, even though having a relaxed nature, he raised him with manners. That is an issue that Naruto has since he had no adult figure to teach him from right to wrong, thus his rude attitude and lack of respect. Danish Zadie. Well, I hope you find the story overall as enjoyable as the first two chapters. Spark 681. There will be some issues if you continue reading. Hikari no Kuro Kiba. They won't fight until the end of the story. There might be some scrimmages here and there, but the final battle is at the end. And Issei will get stronger, but not at the moment. Dark Jaden. He is not. The Brave Saint system is not created until a little bit after this part of the story. Lightning Blade 49. He won't use Juggernaut Drive yet since it can take away his humanity and turn him insane, but he will find a way to replace his life force needed for the Juggernaut Drive to activate. Rider 93. I will try my best for the entire 34 pillars to be present in the story, but so many characters will be hard to focus with, so I might have them as side characters. But yeah, there will be some important members that we deem important. The Pazia Man. That will come up in the next meeting, but since this one is crashed there won't be much word of it. Arslotes. Well, I hope you continue reading. I am not one for developing characters, my brother is, so we will see what we make up. Guest. Yes I am, but that is going to take a while. Remix. That is true. A dragon should be free. He took up the position had to do with Minato commanding it from before, and it was sort of forced onto him by the higher-ups. Though it is true that commanding an army is taxing and takes his freedom away to do what he desires, he is Naruto after all, and if Dulio, who is another general, can travel the world to eat cuisines, then Naruto can do whatever he desires. I had set up the 4 pillars of heaven so they could function without their leader there looking over everything. Naruto will only be needed when important decisions need to be made and during times of war. What I mentioned earlier, Naruto did not have someone to take care of him and tell him from right to wrong. He had Dulio, so he adopted the laid-back personality when situations were not too serious. And there is also another reason Naruto took up that position, but it won't be revealed yet. Daniel 29. You should check out the Beelzebub manga, anime. It will explain why I wrote that part, and yeah, maybe it is. Koko Yuru. It is, and I am a big fan of that pairing, so is my brother, so it is a highly possible one. Orgu. I was a bit disturbed about the first piece of your review, and to answer your second part, sorry about that R-word. Choice was horrible. We were referring to a single or harem pairing, not the girls themselves. Uranos. Well, we are planning on doing an angel faction pairing for this story, so hope you enjoy this chapter. Alex 2909. There will be more important figures introduced in this story. There you will meet the ones who help him run his division while he's away. Gogeta 444. There is something planned later on in the story. He might be an angel, but what I am planning for him will not be held back. Duckmin 34. That is what we were planning. My brother did not change that, but we were planning on making it either a harem or a single pairing. But yes, even if it is a single or a harem pairing, the girls will be from the angel faction. Anyways, now I need to give out some information that needs to be known for this chapter. More characters will be introduced into the story, but they won't be very important. Name. Behemoth race. Demon affiliations. The 4 pillars of heaven. 4th pillar family. Jabberwock, son. Loyalty. Naruto Uzumaki occupation. Advisor powers and abilities. Master hand-to-hand combatant. Behemoth is very skilled in this area of expertise as he taught Naruto some of his skills in this area. Immense demonic power. Being a former general in the original Lucifer's army, Behemoth has powers that could easily rival the Satan's. Having power over the entire division while Naruto is away, he is able to take command of Angel faction troops through sheer power alone. Before his defection, Behemoth was only second to Lucifer in his army. That easily places him in the league of this current generation's Satan level. Enhanced strength. Behemoth is able to easily defeat Naruto without much effort on his part alone. Enhanced speed. Behemoth is able to keep up with Naruto and most likely surpass him in that field. Enhanced durability. Despite his old age, Behemoth is able to withstand powerful attacks dealt to him by Naruto, Dulio, and Jabberwock. Description. Behemoth has no real interest in the war between factions after his defect from Lucifer's army. Having found interest in Naruto, he chose to help the boy train in hand-to-hand combat and later on take him under his wing when teaching the lad how to control the divine dividing. Behemoth shows no true loyalty to heaven. Being a demon in his own right, Behemoth has loyalty to Naruto only. Though the reason why Behemoth is so loyal to Naruto is unknown. Name. Jabberwock race. Demon affiliations. The four pillars of heaven, fourth pillar. Family. Behemoth, father. Loyalty. Behemoth, Naruto Uzumaki. Occupation, field officer. Powers and abilities. Master hand-to-hand combatant. Having been trained by his father alongside Naruto in hand-to-hand combat, Jabberwock has shown to be superior to Naruto in this field of expertise, though they are evenly matched due to Naruto's unpredictability in combat. Immense demonic power. Being a son of Behemoth gives him power that surpassed any normal high-class devil and easily places him in leagues similar to ultimate-class devils or higher. Rivaling Naruto's magical power, Jabberwock competes with Naruto for the second most powerful in the entire division. Immense strength. Jabberwock can easily shatter stone with a punch and crush concrete with little to no effort on his part. Immense durability. Jabberwock has high durability against powerful attacks. He can easily take attacks from both light-based weapons with minimal to no harm. Enhanced speed. Jabberwock's speed makes him one of the fastest in the entire division, able to keep up with Naruto for only a short amount of time. Description. Like his father and many members of the fourth pillar, Jabberwock is loyal to Naruto more so than the church and heaven. Being ranked as a field officer, Jabberwock is trusted enough with his own squadron. Only a few members of the division have gotten his acknowledgement from him, not including Naruto or his father. Note: if you want better images of them, just Google them with the name Beelzebub beside it and you will find pictures of both of them. Now without further ado, the next chapter. Chapter 3. Power of the fourth. Naruto was soaring into the sky, avoiding energy beams sent his way by the mages, though they were getting annoying with the constant attacks sent his way. His forces were not far away and they could regroup soon enough once Rias and Issei had completed their task of freeing their peerage member, causing time to temporarily stop. Having help only from Graffle and Hesidoth for now, Naruto knew it would be enough. Mages were annoying, but most of them were ranged fighters. They had the advantage of range as they were soaring over the skies and his two officers did not have the ability to fly. Restricting their movements to the ground, Naruto was left to fend for himself in the skies. Though both Graffle and Hesidoth could provide ranged support, they were ultimately useless against so many mages. Partner, prepare for balance breaker, Naruto said as he felt the familiar sensation of magic wrapping around his body. Not long his entire body was surrounded by a white light. Armor finally in place. Naruto stopped his charge and scanned the battlefield before him. His division were at a major disadvantage, but they were no normal division as they had faced war than this before. Graffle, gather our forces and have them regroup here, Naruto commanded as he scanned the battlefield once more. An endless wave of enemy forces would be upon them in minutes if they continued at their pace. Though large in numbers, they were weak individually. Hesidoth, go with Graffle and take half of the forces and set up a defensive line around Kuo Academy. We cannot allow them to attack the representatives. Of course, Naruto-sama. Graffle and Hesidoth both responded with a swift bow of their heads, and they sprinted in the opposite direction. Naruto did not spare them another glacé as he focused on the incoming force of enemies. "Oh ho! Seems like a bunch of ants are lining up to be stepped on," Albion said with a hint of glee in his voice as he looked through Naruto's eyes. Even if they were outnumbered, Albion had faith his partner could easily handle himself in this situation. "Your forces will be arriving soon, and with the demon by your side there is nothing that can stop you. Behemoth is retired. But Jabberwock will do. Having him by my side will bring forth our victory much quicker," Naruto replied. Though he was confident in his abilities, it was always best to have someone beside him watching his back. But it doesn't mean the old man wouldn't mind a little bit of exercise. "For now we are alone in this matter." Knowing these mages, they probably sent a wave ahead of their main force. "Looks like you were right, partner. Here they come now," Albion said as a force of 10 or so magicians drew closer to their position. Shooting forward, Naruto moved in speeds no normal human could possibly possess and headed straight for the incoming force of 10 strong. Approaching the closest magician, Naruto punched him in the gut and grabbed hold of him with one hand, throwing him towards another magician who had turned to blast him. Naruto moved towards the others. None of the magicians held any sort of ability in hand-to-hand combat, so Naruto easily demolished the small scouting party without breaking a sweat, but the main force was visible in the horizon and fighting that many would be foolish. It seemed they had the chance to amass their forces before using Gaspar's sacred gear. "Well, partner, looks like we might have to give the Juggernaut drive a little test run, Naruto questioned cheerfully as more and more magicians appeared and continued their approach towards the school with no resistance whatsoever. "You will use that," Albion stated firmly as his tone turned serious. "Though you are Uzumaki, the Juggernaut drive is too much for a mortal to handle. In exchange for my power to be released for a small duration of time, you give up your sanity." "Just throwing that option out there," Naruto responded without a care in his tone. "Besides, it's not likely they will push me to use that power. Now let's engage them in battle. Might as well finish them off before they reach the school." Naruto flew towards them and accessed his other forms of magic. A massive green magic circle was created in front of him and a massive cyclone shot out from said circle. The devastating winds sent magicians in various directions fighting to stay afloat. In response to his attack, they had sent some magic of their own, but due to the cyclone's sheer size it did no harm to it whatsoever. Consuming some unlucky magicians, Naruto added more magic into his spell, and soon the already massive cyclone took on another size entirely. Naruto's eyes narrowed when his magic circle was forcefully shattered and his spell put to an end. Looking around for the source, Naruto found nothing but a large enemy force recovering from his previous spell. Though it did not last long as more and more magicians recovered, and soon Naruto found himself surrounded from all sides. Looking for a possible weakness in their formation, Naruto could not due to their massive numbers. One by one, beams of magic from every direction were sent towards him. Naruto quickly channeled his magic around his entire body and a massive blue barrier erected itself surrounding him. Naruto's barrier continued to absorb all the magical attacks sent his way, but with so many attacks he knew it would not last very long. It being a temporary solution to the major issue he was facing, Naruto could not use Divine Dividing's ability as it required him to have made physical contact with an enemy to drain his or her powers, but he had made no contact with those magicians as of yet. Adding more and more magic into his barrier, Naruto scanned around him and tried to find some way to escape from his situation, being surrounding from all sides with massive numbers keeping him from escaping. Expanding his barrier, Naruto continued to pour his magic into his defense, and it continued to expand it into a massive size that rivaled the main building of Kuo Academy in size alone. Seeing as it had pushed enemies back, Naruto then stopped his flow of magic into his barrier and flew out of the barrier as it was penetrated from the outside. Flying higher and higher, Naruto avoided beams of magic sent his way as he continued to climb the skies. Naruto finally stopped when he had broke through the barrier of clouds blanketing the earth. The moon shone brightly in the night sky. Naruto could not help but marvel at its beauty before he refocused and directed his attention down once more. Moonlight reflected off of his armor and his wings seemed to have shined brighter up here. A white magic circle appeared in front of him, followed by another and another. Until there were 4 magic circles in all. Naruto brought his fist back that was encased in a white light, and he punched the area in front of him and sent a beam of light out from the first magic circle, and as it passed through the other 3, the beam of light had changed into a massive size and shot down towards earth. Banishing Naruto. Vanishing light. 1. As the beam of magical white energy descended upon the earth, magicians could not help but look at the incoming attack in a mixture of awe and fear. Helplessness was common among all as they watched their death descend upon them. None even tried to move. It was hopeless. Such an enormous attack consumed such an area, and it was impossible for them to escape. Silence reigned supreme as a white light consumed the entire battlefield. From the school, Gabriel and the others watched on in interest as they viewed the battle from a safe distance. Once Naruto had ascended into the skies, they did not expect such a thing to come back down. Impressed by the display of power, Sirzex and Azazel could not help but wonder how much power Naruto held compared to Issei. A second thought flashed through Azazel's mind. He was truly impressed with Naruto's control over his sacred gear, and it really intrigued him, that sacred gear. Now he was really looking forward for the peace treaty to be signed. Having a peace treaty between factions would allow his study to soar into new heights if he got a hold of Naruto. That's one interesting sacred gear, Azazel commented with a smirk on his face. Gabriel and Michael both noticed this and shared an uncomfortable look before returning their gaze towards the battle. So much potential. Michael Dono, he is a truly terrifying pillar general, Sirzex said as he smiled. Naruto-kun has yet to show his true power. Michael replied with his usual smile, and he couldn't help but feel proud of his pillar general. Even though he had to piratically force that position onto Naruto, in the end they had compromised and worked out a deal that was agreeable for both. All of a sudden the room was lit by a bright red flash, and Rias and Issei both appeared, accompanied by an androgynous-looking male with platinum blonde hair and pinkish-violet eyes. Hair styled in a bob cut, it also had fringes near his forehead. He also had pointed ears. Dressed in the Kuo Academy female uniform, this was Gaspar Vladi, the bishop of Rias Grammary. Oni-sama, we have returned, Rias said as she looked around and followed the direction of their gazes and saw what they were staring at. The battlefield from before, where trees and buildings once sat, was demolished, and all that was left was a gaping crater on the earth below. At loss for words, Rias and her now recovered peerage looked on in utter shock and a hint of fear. Someone had done that while they were away for such a short time. It was just astounding. Finally composing herself and finding her voice, she spoke, "Oh Oni-sama, who did that?" "Naruto Uzumaki," Sirzex responded as he continued to analyze the effects of that single attack. Descending onto the ground, Naruto looked at his handiwork. So much destruction in his attacks, this one seemed to have topped all of them so far. Though he had wiped out a good portion of the enemy forces, Naruto knew they were only a portion of their total forces in all. Familiar faces came into light as members of the 4th Pillar Division poured into the battlefield surrounding him and quickly got into a defensive formation around him. Allowing his armor to vanish, Naruto scanned the battlefield once more, and he felt a hand placed on his shoulder. Turning around, Naruto came face to face with Jabberwock. Jabberwock was a massive demon with a muscular frame and spiky crimson red hair with a long ponytail and also red eyes. Jabberwock also had a stubble on his chin and several scars across his face. The most prominent one was the traversal across his right eye down to his left cheek. "You didn't save any of them for me, Naruto?" Jabberwock said with a smirk on his face as he looked at the destruction caused by his commander. Whistling in amazement, his eyes narrowed as he felt multiple magical sources appear a short distance from their position. "Naruto, you're getting rusty. Some of them are still alive. Jabberwock, take command of the troops and eliminate the stragglers. Regroup with me when you have eliminated the rest of them," Naruto commanded as he turned and found Graffle among his men and directed his next command towards him. "Graffle, you are with me. I may be in need of your skills." Jabberwock and the troops rushed forward and moved towards the enemy in a quick pace, Naruto watched them leave before he too ran off in the opposite direction heading towards the school. He could have easily used the divine dividing to quicken his pace, but he did not wish to get ahead of himself and lose Graffle, his most reliable source of communication with his troops. Moving through trees, Naruto noticed that time around him was no longer stopped. Deciding it was zealous for him to give instructions as his troops as he had faith in Jabberwock. "Oh ho, a battle." Naruto commented in interest as he slowed down his approach and watched the battle with interest. Azazel was battling against a devil from the wings that the woman possessed. This could be interesting. "It seems that the Red Dragon Emperor has succeeded," Graffle commented as he too watched the battle with growing interest. Naruto heard him and decided not to comment as he focused on the battle at hand. Neither spoke as their interest was growing by the minute. Seeing an artificial sacred gear appear in Azazel's hand, Graffle's eyes widened. "Amazing, an artificial sacred gear. Looks like it's based on our balance breaker," Naruto murmured. Azazel had truly outdone himself in creating a sacred gear of that caliber. "Well, looks like this battle is over." Graffle nodded his head in agreement as he witnessed Azazel slice off his own arm, then attack his opponent with a swift motion, finishing her off with a swift attack on his part. Looking towards his commander, he noticed the young Uzumaki had his eyes set on the Red Dragon Emperor. Deciding not to comment on that, he waited. Until Naruto finally spoke, "Graffle, we are moving. I wish to have a little scrimmage with the Red One." Nodding his head in response, Graffle followed Naruto as the two headed towards the leaders of the three factions. It didn't take long for them to arrive. Upon their arrival, Gabriel smiled at Naruto and greeted him with a hug, which Naruto awkwardly returned. His eyes focused solely on Issei, who was shifting nervously under his gaze. Releasing him, Gabriel followed his gaze and it fell towards Issei, who was nervously avoiding their eyes. "Naruto-kun, it is good to see you safe," Michael said as he drew attention to himself, smiling at the young Uzumaki. "You did fantastic work out there keeping the magicians from approaching." "Thank you, Michael-sama." Naruto responded in kind as a smirk found its way upon his face. "Azazel-san, that was an interesting sacred gear you used there." "Ahahaha. You liked that brat?" Azazel asked as he released an amused chuckle. "That brat is my own creation." "Issei Hyodo, the Red Dragon Emperor," Naruto stated as he looked at Issei with the smirk still plastered onto his face. "An reincarnated devil and also the weakest Red Dragon Emperor in history. The battle between the Vanishing and Welsh Dragon has been happening for generations, and it seems that this time around the strongest White Dragon Emperor is paired with the weakest Red Dragon Emperor. Amusing, is it not?" The magicians that had attacked were completely wiped out by Naruto's forces, with Jabberwock slightly satisfying his thirst for battle, leaving no signs of the enemy afterwards. Naruto was now giddy with excitement. Naruto had been able to challenge Issei into a battle between dragons, and now he only had a day to prepare for that match, though it was more for Issei rather than him. Not a single leader saw Naruto in need of preparation against Issei. So given the day Naruto had spent that time consulting Albion of the Welsh Dragon's weakness. Even though Naruto knew that he had this battle in the bag, it was best to find information about his enemy. Even if this battle did not satisfy him, he would battle Issei later on when he grew. Naruto did not know why the Devil faction had agreed to such a thing, but he did not care. He had been allowed a battle against one of their servants and it would easily give him a worthy opponent. After all, even if he was the weakest Red Dragon Emperor in all of history, Diedrich still rivaled Albion in power, no matter how much the Vanishing Dragon denied it. With equal terms of power, the outcome of this clash would prove interesting. By accepting this, there were only a few perks that the Devil faction would gain. They would be able to simply gauge his power level and allow their own heavenly dragon to gain some experience, but that was all that Naruto could think of as of now. Advantages and gains for his faction were minimum as well, but one key advantage they would gain was fear. Showing off power of one of their own would increase fear their enemies possessed. A show of power was what Naruto claimed his actions to be, knowing that Gabriel and Michael both disapproved of unnecessary violence. Even if he did not care, he simply was not untouchable. Being a high-ranking member in heaven, he was still vulnerable, and if he was seen as an enemy, he could not fight off against an entire faction alone. Though he was not alone, he had loyal members in his pillar, but once more against an entire faction it would not have been pleasant. Naruto did not wish to go against the angel faction, but he also had goals in mind that clashed with their ideals. Having been present in the faction since Dulio had found him, Naruto didn't want to disappoint the one who had taken care of him when his parents were killed, nor did he wish to disappoint the ones who had helped him along the way. Now residing in the church which was abandoned a while ago, his men had been able to fix its former condition and set up a base of operations there, more so for his specific pillar than the church itself. Naruto was there with his pillar standing by and getting ready for the match against Issei, who they believed was going to be easily defeated. Jabberwock didn't even acknowledge the Red Dragon Emperor by his shared title with his heavenly dragon. That was a big deal. Jabberwock did not acknowledge anyone as a threat aside from a few field officers, Naruto, and a majority of others. Even Jabberwock acknowledged Albion as a threat, but if he dismissed Diedrich as no threat, that spoke volumes of how pathetic he thought of Issei. The difference of power between the Red and White Dragon Emperors were astounding, not just a mere level of power. No, Naruto was leagues above Issei, and the blonde exorcist had not yet stopped growing, while Issei was growing at a slow pace, and it seemed as if he would stay at that weak state for quite some time. It seems you are getting ready for your little spar against the Red Dragon Emperor, Naruto-chan. A voice spoke out suddenly as Naruto leaned back in his seat and a smile played on his lips. Naruto-chan, it seems that you aren't going to bother preparing against the Red One whatsoever. You're here, old man Behemoth. Naruto replied with his smile widening. Turning to face the source of the voice, Naruto spotted an elderly man with white hair and a mustache and beard to go along with it. Are you going to watch my little match against the Red One? Jabberwock and I both will be there in case any devils think they should interfere. The newly named Behemoth responded with a grin of his own. Walking towards Naruto, Behemoth tossed the blonde a wrapped object which Naruto caught and gave him a curious look. I got you a little present. I found that little mask you wanted. Naruto's eyes widened in shock and wonder as H quickly tore open the wrapping paper like a child of Christmas Day. Hands touching the content inside, Naruto lifted the object for a better look at it. The object was a mask, not just any mask but the Shinigami Mask, or also known as the Death Reaper Mask. The Shinigami Mask was a sealing technique developed by the Uzumaki clan that was used to summon the death god himself and release the souls inside his stomach. A powerful mask that was very powerful, that required no sacrifice for summoning a god to do their bidding. Now with this mask, Naruto had now collected another one of the lost artifacts of his clan, and there were none left to his knowledge. The Uzumaki clan being a mysterious clan, they had secrets hidden even from members of their own, and with Kashina dying before she could pass down the secrets she knew to Naruto, Naruto set out on his own to find them. Thank you, old man. Naruto said as his smile widened further. Placing his mask down, Naruto turned to Behemoth and spoke in his usual tone. I can't thank you enough, Behemoth Gigi. With this I just might be able to bring back the Uzumaki clan to its former glory. Behemoth smirked at that. The reason he chose to follow Naruto was odd. Naruto himself was a powerful human. Behemoth knew about the Uzumaki body that allowed them go through some horrible situations and live through it. That was what had intrigued him so much. This human had something others did not. Behemoth thought that Naruto held something else aside from his sacred gear, though he did not know what. Behemoth wished to. That was the first reason for following him, but now Behemoth found another to follow this blonde. Naruto's ambition. Behemoth was the only one that knew of his true goal, to surpass the greatest existence and take the Great Red's place. It was finally time for the battle. Naruto was now facing Issei in the fields of Kuo Academy. There all the leaders of the three factions were there watching. Michael and Gabriel were there to support Naruto. Searzex and Serafal were there to simply support Issei, though they wished to see Naruto's strength as well. Azazel was there alone to see the power between the Red and White Dragon Emperor. This allowed him to collect data further for his research. Azazel was a scientist, and to collect data further was something he would have dropped his activities to do. Naruto and Issei facing off would simply give him data on balance breakers from the strongest and weakest dragon emperors in all of history. This was a chance in a lifetime. Rias and the rest of her peerage were there as well. They were watching with nervousness consuming their every actions. How could they not be nervous for one of their own when he was facing off against an enemy who could wipe out an entire army with one blow? It frightened them how powerful others were, and Naruto wasn't even much older than them and younger in Rias and Akino's situation. Not only that, but he was a human. "Are you ready for this, Red One?" Naruto asked as the divine dividing appeared behind him and lifted him off the ground. Looking at Issei, Naruto saw the nod in confirmation and he too nodded in response. A flash of light consumed Issei's left arm as a crimson gauntlet with green gems decorating it covered his arm. "Then let's begin." Naruto launched himself towards Issei, who backed up quickly to avoid Naruto's charge. Failing to do so, Naruto had managed to sink a punch directly on Issei's stomach before sending another punch at the reincarnated devil's face. The impact from his blow sent Issei tumbling backwards. Naruto did not pursue his prey as he looked on in disappointment. Shaking his head, Naruto stretched his right hand and a small magical circle appeared in front of it, and the magic energy Issei had sent his way was stopped just as it made contact. Issei was not done yet as he rushed forward and sent a punch towards Naruto, who simply leaned to the side and kicked Issei on the stomach. Allowing Issei to continue his assault, Naruto merely floated there. Issei picked himself up and rushed Naruto again. Though his methods weren't the best, he was trying at least. Naruto was not even trying to fight Issei. He was not even a threat to Naruto. It was like a mouse trying to fight an elephant. That was a foolish thing to do, as a simple stomp could easily flatten the mouse. Yet here he was trying for God knows why. Naruto looked at him in a new light. Whatever drove him to fight must have meant a ton to him. To fight someone leagues apart was something only the bravest or dumbest of men could do. Naruto was hoping Issei was the former. With that trait, then the battle against the Red Dragon Emperor would have been a tad bit more amusing. "So tell me, Red One, why are you trying so hard?" Naruto asked as he stopped a punch from Issei and held him in place as his visage shifted into a curious one. "There is always a reason a man is fighting so hard." "For bucko," Issei grunted as he tried to free his gauntlet-worn hand from Naruto's grip. Progress was made as Issei began trying to wiggle his fist out. "For buckhouse opai." Naruto was shocked beyond words as he blinked a few times, trying to wrap his mind around the statement his destined rival had just made. Issei had been able to free himself as Naruto focused his mind on his statement and sent a punch at Naruto, who composed himself and leaned to the side and flew backwards, getting some distance from him. Issei. It seemed as if Issei had another idea as he rushed forward to attack Naruto, and a massive white magic circle appeared before Issei. The Red Dragon Emperor's eyes widened in shock and fear as a blast of white magic sent him flying back. Rias looked on in shock and fear as she watched her pawn soaring through the sky. She tried to rush forward, but Jabberwock stopped her before she could reach the battlefield. She gave him a glare and flared her magic, but Jabberwock merely looked at her with a bored look on his face. Flaring a small bit of his own magic, Jabberwock dwarfed the tiny bit of power that Rias possessed, shocking the surrounding individuals and Rias alike. "Naruto won't be disturbed. Once he's done with his little match, I can have my own with him," Jabberwock said as he blocked Rias' passage towards the battlefield and looked down at her with boredom. Rias's peerage quickly ran to help her as two blades reached up towards Jabberwock's neck and a punch was directed at his stomach. Not even blinking an eyelash, a wave of dark red energy blasted Rias and her peerage away. Sirzex and Seraphol both turned to face Jabberwock with frowns upon their faces. Is Naruto-chan still fooling around?" A voice resounding around the clearing, and the two Satans looked around trying to find the source of the voice. They stopped when the sound of walking was audible and a simple elderly man walked towards them with a smile on his face. "Jabberwock, isn't Naruto-chan done with his little fight?" "Behemoth-sama," Sirzex mumbled in utter shock, and fear gripped his entire body as he looked at the elderly man with a fear-consumed face. Chapter End. Shinigami Mask. The mask of the Shinigami used by the Uzumaki clan to release souls from the Shinigami's stomach. The use of this mask does not cost the summoner his or her life. It being an ancient artifact of the Uzumaki clan, the way to use this has been lost once the legendary head of the Uzumaki clan died, Kashina Uzumaki. I hope you liked this chapter. Our other stories will be stopped for now as we focus on this one. I have been writing the next chapter for the rise of the Otsutsuki clan, but I have writers block and my brother is trying his best to make his chapter for the unknown hero longer, but it seems to be taking him quite some time. So please leave a review and tell me what you think of it so far. Chapter 4 White Dragon of Heaven. I am back once more and I hope you liked my brother's chapter, and now it is my turn. To recap, last chapter Behemoth made his appearance and Naruto and Issei have began their little battle. In short, we have something planned for Naruto and more will be shown about the Uzumaki clan. It is going to be something that has yet to be done and we hope you enjoy it. Though it will be later on in the story, so you are free to guess what it is going to be about. Wacko 12. Yes he is, it was spoken about on the previous chapter. Enux 27. The great beast of earth as said in mythology is not who this Behemoth is. This Behemoth is from Beelzebub and founder of the 34 Pillars division, as I mentioned earlier. Behemoth is a former general of the original Lucifer's army and his name is written in textbooks. A jammer. Another one is, but this one is from another anime, manga. Dark Convoy 99. I like Rosavice, so I will try to convince my brother to keep her out of Issei's harem. Fallen Ryu. My brother and I both like Koneda Aoi. She is an amazing character that has a freaking exorcist beast with her, so yeah, she will definitely be a part of Naruto's division. I will be making her an exorcist and maybe later on a reincarnated angel, so I will place her in the harem if it wins out and maybe a single pairing if that wins the polls. Guest 007. I will not have him command so many angels as he does not like to be restricted to a certain spot. But he might or might not be reincarnated, but I plan on doing something greater than that. Eternal Guest. Your thoughts are going in the right direction as we are planning on making a subspecies balance breaker for T. And Ascalon will be mastered by Naruto, but it will take time as he never used a sword before and he later on will be able to use the dragon slaying abilities of the blade and use it in his regular attacks. Phantasm Reaper King. I might not unlock the chakra chains since it is shown to only manifest in woman, Kashina and Karen. But I do not understand the second part of your question. Senju Risalvini. Searzex is a powerful devil, yes, but there are greater forces than him like the original Satans etc. Remix. Sometimes he could be serious but his perverted nature ruined the original story for me. Hikari no Kuro Kiba. Well, thanks so much for the support. Fire God Vargas. I don't know. I might have him make a cameo later on, but I have no idea yet. Reader. Dulio taught him what he knew and Behemoth helped him master his techniques. Hunter 792. The Greek pantheon might be an interesting twist in this story, so maybe. Toa Gaim ZXA. I add characters from animes, mangas that have to do with the exorcist and demon thing, like Beelzebub with demons and exorcists. Rarayujin. We never mentioned Issei having holy water. Gogeta 444. There will be more powers that he will learn in the future, and Naruto will be expanding on the Rasen Shuriken. Ryuki 13. I will make the fight scene long so you and the other readers will enjoy it. Youth Guest. We are debating whether Naruto should have the Hiraishin or not, so we might have to get back to you on that. The Uzumaki seals, as you put it, is only a bit since Kashina died before she could pass on the knowledge. Naruto can access wind magic, and when he is using his balance breaker he can simply direct his magic in simple blasts. Anyone can do that. Moving on, the Uzumaki trait is natural talent with seals, powerful life force, minor healing factor. Joker. I do not know if we are adding Irina or not, so you will just have to keep on reading. Also yeah, with the Ascalon and divine dividing he is powerful. Guys, my brother did not get to mention that Behemoth is from the Beelzebub anime, manga, so Google him if you need more information, and also I will add one more character from Beelzebub and later on I might add more characters from other animes, mangas into this story as members of Naruto's pillar. Anyways, My brother and I, if you guys did not know, are taking a break from our regular stories, so we can finish this one. Also, we will create some subspecies balance breakers for Naruto since Issei has a few of them and we do not want Naruto to be left out. Without further delay, the next chapter. Chapter 4. Issei was having a bad day. He did not like fighting in general. Now here he was stuck fighting a general no less. The reason for even fighting at all was Rias's Ophis. Issei was such a pervert that he was willing to fight someone leagues more skilled and powerful than he was for simply groping a pair of Ophis. That said a lot about someone's character. It also said how perverted one was, but it did not matter for Issei to get to touch a pair of Ophis as marvelous as Rias's. He was willing to fight for it. But now Issei was starting to regret accepting that offer Rias had made him. To simply put it, Rias would allow him a full minute with her Ophis if he fought against Naruto. Now here he was sailing across the sky with every cell in his body burning from Naruto's attack. Issei, though a devil, could not fly with his wings, oddly enough. Crashing against the dirt floor, Issei released a groan of pain as he began picking himself off the ground. Wincing in pain, Issei looked towards Naruto, who held no emotions on his face. A sense of dread washed over him as he continued to stare at the emotionless blonde. Naruto was speechless. He had given his opponent the benefit of the doubt and here he was bearing the fruit of his labor. His destined rival was fighting for a pair of breasts. No matter how hard Naruto tried to make that phrase seem epic or at least normal, it just came crashing down. It was so disappointing, from what Albion and the rest of his teachers told him about this predestined battle. Naruto might have thought of his opponent to be greater than what Issei was, but it seriously bothered him that his destined rival was a big pervert who fought for Ophis. Words could not express how disappointed he was in his opponent. He had hoped for someone greater and worthy of giving him a battle for his life, yet here was his destined rival, a shameless pervert who raved about the female body. This was going to take some time to get used to. Shaking off his shock and disappointment, Naruto saw Issei rushing forward with his fist cocked backwards and ready to hit his face. Leaning to the side, Naruto allowed the fist to fly past him as Naruto grabbed hold of the pervert's arm and spun him around. Not a minute later, Naruto kicked Issei directly on the stomach and a groan was heard. Issei was then sent flying once more, but this time Naruto did not allow him to recover. Appearing in front of Issei, Naruto did not relent as he punched Issei directly on the stomach. The sudden force from Naruto's attack stopped Issei's ascent and sent the poor reincarnated devil directly to the ground. Hopping backwards, Naruto created some distance between them and waited there patiently for his opponent to recover. Now it was time to see how Issei retaliated. Sears X and Serafal both looked at the former general with nervousness in their actions. Behemoth didn't seem to notice the nervous behavior or did not care, most likely the former. Sears X decided to speak first. Behemoth-sama, what are you doing here? We thought you were lost along with Lucifer-sama during the Great War. Who are you, brat? Behemoth questioned as he looked at Sears X in a bored fashion. I am Sears X Lucifer. I took the title after Lucifer-sama's demise. Sears X introduced as he composed himself and looked at Behemoth directly in the eyes. That was a big mistake. As his eyes met the former general, Sears X seemed to have been staring into an eternal abyss of shadows. Removing his eyes from Behemoth's, Sears X could not help but feel fear from the man before him. Sears X was powerful indeed, but Behemoth was in another level. Leading the original Lucifer's army, Behemoth was worthy of taking over after the death of said Satan. Yet during the final clash where Lucifer lost his life, Behemoth vanished without a trace and devils now assumed he was killed by the clashing dragons. So you took over his position, brat? Behemoth asked in a blank tone. His eyes bore into the current Lucifer's and he shifted his eyes to the devil standing a little ways away from him. And what about you? I am Serafal Leviathan, current holder of the Leviathan title. Serafal responded with her usual playful tone gone and replaced by a serious one that seemed out of place for someone like her. Situations like this one demanded her serious side, and acting childish to someone of Behemoth's caliber was simply foolish. Behemoth studied the two closely as multiple thoughts ran amok in his mind. They did not interest him in the slightest. It was as simple as that. They were merely brats who took over the names of the former Satans, nothing more to it. But what they were doing was keeping him from watching his students fight. Looking at them, Behemoth waved his hand in a dismissive manner and spoke, "You do not interest me. Keep quiet while I watch Naruto-chan fight." "Jabberwock, are you keep those brats from interfering? What do you think I've been doing, old man?" Jabberwock questioned in a gruff tone. Behemoth merely nodded his head and turned to watch the battle commence with no emotions displayed on his visage. The two Satans did not seem to react to that comment as they nodded their heads in response, and Behemoth turned to watch the battle commence. Jabberwock did as well, not even sparing them another glance. The father and son watched their rival, student, engage the perverted devil in a battle. Rias seemed to have recomposed herself after that display of power that Jabberwock had displayed. The feeling of helplessness was still present inside of her, and her body seemed to have been frozen during that display. Turning to her brother, Rias asked in a shaky tone, "Oh Oni-sama, who are they?" "Rias, do not step out of line with these two," Sirzex said in a dangerously serious tone. His eyes bore into his sister's, all playfulness gone. "That is Behemoth-sama, former general of the original Lucifer's army. I can't stress this enough, do not step out of line." Once Issei recovered, the perverted devil stood on his shaky legs and pulled out that ring Azazel had given him. Placing it around his arm, Issei grunted in pain as his muscles felt as if they were bathing in a sea of fire. The attacks Naruto had delivered had been painful. Even if his durability was raised, he simply could not take blows of that level. Magic power flowing into that ring as he was consumed in a red light, and soon Issei had red dragon armor decorated with green jewels covering his entire body. When the light died down, Naruto looked at him with an amused face. How could he not be amused? His opponent had entered Balance Breaker. Even if it did not seem very impressive, Naruto would make do with that he had. Issei rushed forward with newfound speeds and shot towards Naruto, who simply smirked in glee and vanished before Issei could even reach him. Appearing behind Issei, Naruto tried to grab hold of him, but Issei managed to turn in time and punch Naruto directly in the face. Flying backwards, Naruto created some distance from him, and his smirk widened as he touched the area where the punch had made contact with. A flash of light formed in his hands as it lengthened into the shape of a sword. Once the light vanished, Ascalon was seen into his hands. Issei seemed to have little knowledge of his blade as he rushed forward regardless of the blade in Naruto's hands. As he approached to punch him, Issei felt immense pain in his chest. Eyes widened into dramatic degrees, Issei looked down at his chest and his eyes widened further upon seeing the massive cut that had formed. Armor and all was sliced and his cut flesh was visible through his damaged armor. Turning to look at Naruto, who had lost his smirk and now a bored expression replaced his former expression. "Come on, perverted dragon. You were supposed to dodge that," Naruto exclaimed in disappointment. Waving his arms in disbelief, Naruto spoke again. "If you can't beat me with your balance breaker, then you won't be a match when I'm in mine." The loss of an exciting battle had diminished his interest in this fight, and his lazy personality seemed to be taking over. Grumbling, Naruto decided enough was enough and he needed to finish this so he could enjoy a nice bowl of ramen. That sounded very pleasing at the moment. Tossing his blade into the air, the blade vanished into a shower of sparks, just like how it had appeared. Naruto was engulfed in a bright white light, and soon his body was covered in white dragon armor with blue jewels decorating it. Issei had recovered from Naruto's attack and tried to move his body, but all he could accomplish was a turn of it, and Naruto slammed into him and carried him into the air. Issei struggled to escape the blonde's grasp to no avail, and a punch from Naruto shattered his already damaged armor, and pain followed that punch. Not long before, Issei was thrown from the sky towards the earth below him, as gravity took on its role, and Issei began plummeting towards the ground. Bringing both arms forward, a massive white magical circle appeared before him and a beam of behemoth proportions shot towards the falling form of Issei. Once the white beam of light consumed Issei, it blinded everyone near the area and silence once more took the field. The fight with Issei ended with a definite victory for Naruto. The outcome was predictable, not a single one believed Issei could win that. Now nothing seemed so exciting anymore. His dreams of a glorious battle between rivals had vanished and now was replaced by utter disappointment. Now Naruto was situated in his office at the Fourth Pilar's headquarters. After the fight, Naruto had gone on a ramen run. Normal people could only eat a few bowls, but not Naruto. He had eaten over a dozen bowls and still asked for more. On top of that, Naruto did not seem to gain a single pound from all that ramen. The blonde claimed that the food for the gods did not harm. Others like Behemoth believed it was due to his Uzumaki metabolism. They were a mysterious clan indeed with an assorted array of abilities. Now the powerful leader of the fourth pillar lay there on top of his desk defeated. His most powerful foe up to date yet had taken him down faster than anyone Naruto had ever faced in combat. His great foe was known as Paperwork. A dangerous foe that preyed upon the ones that led. Such a foe was not easily defeated like normal opponents. Normal opponents, once they were defeated, they stayed defeated. No, not Paperwork. That deadly fiend did not simply die once they were finished. No, they kept multiplying. After one was defeated, two more would take its place. This enemy was more frightening than any god or dragon, and in Naruto's eyes more powerful than the former and latter combined. "I'm tired. Can I take a break, Aoi-chan?" Naruto asked in a childish tone as he turned to face the person standing a little ways behind him. Aoi Kuneda was an attractive teen with long blue hair and blue eyes. Her attire consisted of the fourth pillar black and white long coat over her usual white dress shirt and tie. Finishing her outfit was a simple mini skirt. "Naruto-kun, you need to take your position as general more seriously," Aoi replied as a sigh was released from her lips. Looking over at Naruto, she saw the childish pout decorating Naruto's visage. Aoi was used to Naruto's childish tendencies. It was odd how powerful individuals acted. Naruto for one was laid back and childish, but when it came to battle, Naruto completely changed in behavior and personality. Having been with Naruto for years, she had been used to his behavior, but there were still some things that she could not get used to. "Naruto-kun, you didn't even do any work. All you did was write ramen on our supply list. That's a good day's work right there," Naruto responded as he pointed his finger at the single word he wrote. Aoi released another sigh and face palmed in exasperation. No matter how many times Naruto and her went through this situation, this was one of the things she could not get used to. Naruto continued to pout, but another idea formed in his mind. Reaching over, Naruto grabbed both Aoi's hands and looked into her eyes. "Aoi-chan, will you do it with me?" "Do it with me? HEC can't possibly be thinking that?" Aoi thought frantically as a massive blush formed on her face. As she thought of her words more and more, the blush grew larger. It seemed humanly impossible for her face to get any redder than it already was, but Aoi did not seem to have any issues with that. What a ryu. The door leading into Naruto's office was pushed open and Jabberwock poked his head inside and looked at the two holding hands. Deciding to ask about the situation, Jabberwock questioned the two with his eyebrows raised. "What are you two doing?" "Nothing," Aoi shouted in shock and embarrassment as she removed her hands from Naruto's grasps and ran towards the exit. As she passed by Jabberwock, who was blocking her from exiting, she shoved the poor demon into a wall and continued running out of the room with her face burning with embarrassment. As she ran away, she left behind a confused Naruto and a cursing Jabberwock. "What was that about?" Naruto asked in confusion as he continued looking at the retreating figure of Aoi Kuneda, and once she vanished from view, he redirected his attention towards Jabberwock. Jabberwock, who had finally gotten himself out of the wall, he looked at Naruto in disbelief. Slamming his head against the door frame, he shouted with disbelief evident in his voice, "How can you be so dense? What were we supposed to do again?" Naruto asked as he whistled cheerfully. The blonde exorcist was currently walking down the busy streets of Tokyo with Aoi following closely behind. She had exchanged her long black coat in favor of a simple blazer, making her seem more and more like a schoolgirl, while Naruto changed his coat for a simple jacket with orange on it. "We were supposed to set up a permanent base of operations at the abandoned church in Kuo, but you got distracted by ramen and now we're in Tokyo." Aoi responded with another sigh. It seemed that being around Naruto, she seemed to sigh a lot more than often. Looking at the blank look that Naruto sported, Aoi looked at him strangely. Aoi-chan, can we not talk about work here? Naruto questioned as he looked at her with a smile on his face. Kuneda continued to look at him strangely. Naruto seemed to take that as a yes as he grabbed her hand and led her around the crowd. Let's have some fun. Aoi knew Naruto was childish, and to dismiss a mission in favor of fooling around in a city was exactly something that everyone would expect from Naruto. And here they were, two high-ranking officers of heaven enjoying the joys that Tokyo had to offer. Like normal teenagers, the two in many ways seemed normal. How could they not? No normal general of a task force and his right-hand woman would simply go walking around Tokyo City like two tourists enjoying a nice vacation. That was how the two spent most of their day. They had enjoyed the joys offered by Tokyo City. Though unlike teenagers their age, they had managed to destroy a few machines in an arcade they had visited, and Naruto had consumed more food than any normal person when they had ate. All in all, it was a pretty normal day for the two. Spending so much time together, one would think that Aoi would have gotten over her shyness around Naruto, but she had managed to somehow keep that to this day. Aoi would not have admitted it to anyone, but she had a good time with Naruto as they moved from place to place all over Tokyo. It was odd how many would think people with similar personalities would be attracted to each other, but the saying of opposites attracting was not so far off either. Naruto was an idealist while Aoi was an realist, both completely different in many subjects. But in this world, there existed both idealists and realists. A combination of both would bear spectacular results. Realists thought practically while idealists thought through ideals and sometimes dreams. Idealists flew high without a care in the world, and realists kept them from flying too close to the sun, and without idealists, realists would have never flew off the ground in the first place. Currently, the two were walking side by side heading towards the park situated a little ways away from the restaurant they had dined at. Naruto still had his cheerful smile decorating his face as they entered the park and continued walking. A familiar sensation filled his mind as his body unconsciously moved and headed off of the road and towards the woods. Aoi looked at her commander in confusion and decided to ask, Naruto-kun, what are you doing? Sorry about that, Aoi-chan. Naruto replied suddenly as he flashed her a cheeky smile and returned to the path. I got a little distracted. Aoi could only nod her head in response. She did not know what to do in this situation, so a nod was what she had produced. The two continued walking, and Naruto could sense the familiar energy signature of the Welsh dragon a little ways ahead of him with another familiar energy signature. Walking forward, Naruto quickened his pace and Aoi followed without hesitation. Not long after they spotted Issei Hyodo and Asia Argento together, making their presence known. Naruto coughed into his hands and caught their attention. Issei was immediately on guard as his entire body tensed and his eyes widened in shock and fear, still remembering that power Naruto had displayed during their little spar. Unconsciously taking a step backwards, the boosted gear quickly formed around his arm, and Issei held up his shaky arm high up, allowing Naruto to see his sacred gear, gathering whatever courage he had left in his body. Issei spoke in a tone that reeked of fear, "What are you doing here?" Aoi took a step forward and put up a protective arm in front of Naruto, and she narrowed her eyes at the Red Dragon Emperor. Asia nervously looked between both parties and tried to say something, but she too was consumed by fear. Surely they would not fight here of all places. Well, that was what Asia believed. Asia was still a member of the church, but her activities with the reincarnated devil had brought some negative responses from some members of the church. Aoi, on the other hand, did not even see Issei as a threat, but her actions were simply protocol. Responding to the demand, she spoke in a serious tone. "It's none of your business, devil, but if you are looking for a fight, I will respond in kind." This situation was quickly spiraling out of control, and it seemed a fight could easily break out between Aoi and Issei at any minute. And to make matters worse, a magic circle with the Gremory family crest appeared a little few meters away from them. In a flash of bright red light, Rias Gremory and her peerage appeared there, and their eyes widened in shock as they spotted Naruto and Aoi. Quickly taking action, they surrounding Issei and Asia as they prepared for the worst and prayed to whatever devils could for the best. Rias was nervous. How could she not? Naruto was standing before her with another human and she could only assume it was another exorcist, and if she was in Naruto's company then she was a monster in battle as well. Gathering all of her strength and calming her nerves, Rias had composed herself and was now ready to speak. "What are you doing here, White Dragon Emperor? If you are here for Issei-kun, then we won't let you get to him without a fight." Naruto was rather impressed by their will to protect one of their own. It almost made him sad that he would have to break that little group up. Key word here was almost. But he could allow them to exist for now. Even if he was here for Issei, the reincarnated devil would not have been alive if he truly wished for his death. A simple banishing Uraito, vanishing light, 1. would have easily vanquished the perverted devil. He didn't need to be creative to destroy an enemy. Well, as great as that sounds, I have to say no to that offer. That seemed to have brought relief among others, as everyone seemed to relax even if it was at the slightest. Aoi didn't relax, but her body lost a bit of tension. The tension was still thick and hostility towards Naruto was high due to the beating he gave Issei not so long ago. Not that Naruto could blame them. But he was now curious, so deciding to word his curiosity, Naruto asked with an raised eyebrow, "So you were planning on attacking me with a ragtag group of reincarnated devils? Frankly, I am insulted." The insulted party kept their mouths shut, preventing any words from escaping their lips, as many of them frowned at the jab, though the words Naruto had spoken were true. Rias did not constructed her peerage with much thought. Many people like her rival Sona Citri, who constructed her peerage with her tactful mind and was a formidable enemy when in a raiding game. Rias, on the other hand, had a big heart and pretty much reincarnated half her peerage out of pity. Issei was more of an intellectual decision, but some of the others were not. Overall, the peerage were weak. Under the command of a sheltered high-class devil, they did not have much combat experience against more powerful enemies and thus proved themselves to be nothing more than inexperienced fools. That much aside, they were nice people, or devils, that would get them pretty far in this cruel world. Not really, but Naruto liked looking at the positive side of situations. "Now, did you really think a small group like that could have done me or Aoi-chan any harm?" Naruto asked once more, before his eyes fell on Asia, who was shifting around nervously and looking at the ground, avoiding all eye contact from anyone present. "Asia-chan, no need to be nervous about being around devils now. With the peace treaty in place, our factions should be friendlier towards one another. Issei-san, though I do wish to make something clear," Naruto said with seriousness taking over his voice, "our dragons are destined to fight each other in the future. Sooner or later we shall fight once more, and I hope for a better fight than what you put up last time. For now we are acquaintances and no harm will come to you or your friends as long as the peace treaty is in place. But you stand in the way of my goal. One day I will surpass the Welsh dragon. And on that day, Naruto-san, we will stand by Issei-kun's side." Rias responded with sharp tone. Her eyes were filled with determination as she showed off her loyalty towards her pawn, and Naruto was rather impressed by this. "You stand by that weakling's side and we stand by our commander's side." A voice rang from the woods around them and shadows appeared around the trees and came closer to them. Rias and her peerage Issei included all took a few steps back and looked around them with suspicion and a bit of fear in their eyes. Hesidoth appeared from the shadows and moved to Naruto's right and had his spear ready in hand. "Hesidoth, what are you doing here?" Naruto asked in his usual cheerful tone. Hesidoth raised an eyebrow before he replied with a sigh, "Naruto-sama, I was here to make sure you did not get lost like you always do. Also, we finished preparations and the church is restored to its former conditions before it was abandoned." Naruto looked at him with a disbelieving expression as Aoi decided to comment on that. "It's true, Naruto-kun, you tend to have an issue with direction. That was the reason Michael-sama assigned Kunita-san to be your bodyguard. Face it, Naruto-sama, you have a horrible sense of direction." Hesidoth supplied with a smirk on his face. Naruto crossed his arms and pouted like a child. "I do not have a bad sense of direction." The entire Gremory peerage looked at the scene with disbelief. It was odd how some of the most powerful people had the weirdest quirks, and it seemed that Naruto was no different from that. True enough, Naruto was a child in every way, But when times called for it he could become serious and fit the role of general in every way, but the other times he was a laid-back idiot. The previous tension-filled air was vanquished by the odd scene that was playing before them. Naruto had decided to end this and turned to face the Gremory group with a cheerful smile on his face. "Well, it was nice talking to you guys again, but I have to go," Naruto said with a cheerful wave of his hand before his eyes fell on Asia and he asked her with his usual tone, "Asia-chan, are you coming back to the church?" Asia looked between Issei and Naruto before she bowed towards Issei and his group of devil friends and ran towards Naruto. Approaching them, she turned back once more and said, "Bye, Issei-san, I hope we can do this again sometime." Kashina Uzumaki was a powerful exorcist during her time alive. Along with her husband, she utilized the rare amount of skill she possessed with seals in open combat. Not only that, but she came from a long line of powerful human mages and exorcists alike. Though the Uzumaki clan was destroyed during the last war, their teachings and abilities lived on in her. Her abilities did not rely solely on seals. Oh no, she had a powerful familiar by her side, a Kyuubi no Kitsune. A yokai that was said to rival ultimate class devils. They were truly powerful beasts, but this one was different from the rest. It did not utilize magic like the others, oh no, it used something more powerful, the mysterious power known as chakra. It was only possible to unlock that source of power when utilizing senjutsu, but not many yokai could access chakra without senjutsu, but here was this Kyuubi who could easily do it. That left some questions on how Kashina had died during that night. With such a powerful yokai under contract, it was a wonder how she had died. But nonetheless, she and her husband had perished that day and left behind their legacy, Naruto Uzumaki. But she was unable to leave her anything except a final gift, her contract with the Kyuubi. On her last breaths she had spoke with the Kyuubi and she had begged it to help watch over her son, something that she could no longer do. Kurama was the Kyuubi's name. It watched over its former contractor's son. It was not impressed. Though Naruto was powerful and lived up to the name of the Uzumaki clan well, it was not ready for another contractor. But it had made a promise to Kashina to watch over Naruto. Even if it did not like the brat, it would do it nonetheless. Residing in a cave deep inside the underworld, someplace where no one would think to look for a massive nine-tailed fox, Kurama had gone into slumber and decided to only show itself when it deemed Naruto ready. Now here it was, awake and ready to speak to Naruto. Even if Kurama did not accept Naruto to be its contractor, a promise was made and it would have to uphold it no matter what. But in Kurama's eyes, Naruto was nothing like his mother. Kashina had a fiery attitude and a knack for seals and was quite intelligent. Naruto, on the other hand, seemed more like an idiot than what he was made out to be. It knew that Naruto's personalities shifted on and off the battlefield, but it did not respect the blonde whatsoever. Naruto did not live up to the Uzumaki name. Kurama had known some of the Uzumaki for centuries and they were nothing like him. But that was not the true reason he hated Naruto. During Kashina's death, it had been accused for causing it and thus some exorcists were sent to hunt it down. Having developed a hatred for exorcists and seeing Naruto become one, it hated that part of the blonde. Nothing else was wrong except the immense hatred for exorcists in Kurama's heart. The audacity of those humans, to think that it would be the cause of its contractor's death. The pride of the Kyuubi had been damaged that day and gave birth to hatred that could rival all. Chapter end. Okay, that is the end of the chapter. I hope you like it and it's the first appearance of Kurama. Anyways, I made Kurama hate the exorcists for a reason which will be explained later on. Anyways, I hope you liked Aoi Kuneda in this story since I find her character awesome. My brother will take over next and it will be continuing the plot and maybe we will start the next season, don't know yet. Vanishing Light. A powerful attack that varies in power and range depending on the power the user adds into the magic circles. At max strength it could easily destroy a city, but it would cost Naruto a good portion of his magic reserves. Chapter 5 White Dragon of Heaven back again. This time I will be writing this time and I want to explain some things that my brother forgot to. Sirzex is stronger than the original Lucifer, we know that. The reason why we made him weaker was because look at it in our perspective. Heaven lost God their leader also are incapable of increasing their numbers, and fallen angels are limited in number, while devils do not lack anything whatsoever. Having a more powerful Satan than the original will ruin the balance between factions. All in all, the devils are made out to be way too overpowered, and every other faction is pretty weak compared to them. Monsieur le Critique. Ah, thank you for catching our mistakes, man. That is very helpful when we go back to edit our chapters. And yeah, I do notice some mistakes that I make while writing, and I would assume my brother does as well. Honestly, I am not the best with grammar, and neither is he. But nonetheless, thanks for those words, and we will try our best to improve on our mistakes thus far. The immortal Siegfried. We know that, and our reason is explained in the previous paragraph. Enix 27. Leviathan is considered a Satan, while Ziz will be added later on. Maybe, I do not know yet, it is dependent on my brother. The Lone Soul. More members of the 34 Pillars division will be shown as minor roles rather than supporting ones. Rikon 67. Naruto already knows how to utilize seals, but he won't be using seals in combat much. And the reason Naruto does not, because he has the divine dividing White Maelstrom. Do not know about that yet, so you will have to wait on that answer. Remix. Your answer would be at the first paragraph, please read. Guessed. I have no idea, maybe because Kashina did not know her birth would have been interrupted by Madara. Fire God Vargas. The TKKH would have been a funny addition. Eternal Guest. Yes, the rest of the people in the fourth pillar will have their own weird quirks, and how Naruto found Japan. It's gonna be an omake. Anyways, it is similar to Kiba's hatred towards the Secret Sword Project. Guest. Actually, I got that from the legend of Icarus and Daedalus. You know, Icarus flew too close to the sun, and you know the wings that Daedalus were ruined and he fell. Yeah. But it's cool that Modern Family has something like that. Kaiser Ultima. That won't happen, don't worry. Maelstrom of Swirling Tide. Maybe, I personally do not know what we are going to do with Kurama as of yet, so maybe he will, but again, I do not know yet. I may have to get back to you on that. Hikari no Kuro Kiba. Well, thank you for those kind words, and I hope you will enjoy the next chapters. Phantasm Reaper King. No issue at all, but to answer your question, I do not think we are going to make Naruto an angel yet, or maybe a bit later on until the development of the Brave Saint system. And personally, I want give him his own group of reincarnated angels. Fallen Ryu. Well, I like her character, and so does my brother, so we placed her in. And yeah, for someone who can keep up with a demon lord, she is pretty badass. I mean, a girl who can damage buildings with a wooden sword is awesome. Jaden Cage. I do not know yet, but maybe if my brother agrees. Now that I answered a few things, we should start the chapter now. Chapter. New skills in school. A dragon was a beast of great power. Many have died fighting these creatures of mass destruction, and few lived to tell the tale. Yet 2 dragons known as the 2 heavenly dragons were slain and their souls sealed into sacred gears. The powers of these dragons, if used correctly, could topple gods. Every generation of Dragon Emperor, the constant feud between both supremacy and domination had been fought, resulting in deaths of one or the other. At times the dragons did not clash at all, leaving both alive. Now this generation of Dragon Emperors were completely different, one known as the strongest and the other the weakest. Aoi-chan, do it. Naruto commanded his closest friend and subordinate. Aoi nodded her head in response. Walking forward, she uncapped a marker and began drawing on the surface Naruto had instructed her to draw on. Though it was something odd for her to do, Naruto had ordered her specifically as her commander other than a friend, so Aoi could not do anything else but comply with his orders. Once she was done, Naruto grabbed hold of the marker and began doodling near the area where Aoi had drawn on from before. Finishing the last detail, Naruto stood up with a satisfied smile as the young general handed Aoi the marker. Walking out of the room, Aoi followed Naruto closely from behind, but she stole a glance at her superior's handiwork, and like previous events, Aoi released a sigh. What they were drawing on was none other than Hesidoth, the second officer, to gain his complete trust. Naruto being the child he was, Naruto had found a sleeping Hesidoth and decided to doodle on said officer. As Naruto and Aoi both left, both of them were supposed to be at a meeting, but Naruto blew it off like usual and had Behemoth take his position there. This was a very common, even that it would have been out of place if Naruto had shown up, and Aoi had just about given up trying to persuade Naruto into going to those meetings. Navigating through the maze of hallways in their base of operations, Naruto was cheerfully whistling as usual. Members of the fourth pillar passed by and bowed their heads in respect towards Naruto, who merely waved them off with a cheery grin plastered on his face. Once they reached their destination, Naruto made eye contact with Aoi and they gave each other a wordless nod. A white light shimmered in Naruto's hands as it took the form of a sword, and Ascalon soon materialized into Naruto's hands. Aoi didn't draw the katana she usually carried around with her. It would have been too dangerous to fight against someone like Naruto with a simple blade. She would need to use her holy sword. Like Naruto, Aoi's right hand was consumed by a pink light as it soon took the form of another sheathed katana and her blade materialized into her hands. This sword was wrapped in a layer of bandages as Aoi quickly removed the bindings and her blade was finally shown to Naruto.